Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Australia for the 6th round of the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup. We're here at Bathurst, of course, Mount Panorama circuit as it's otherwise known, and today we have got one hell of a race waiting for you. The notorious MX-5 Cup, heading towards the halfway point of the season upon conclusion of tonight. And tonight's track, Mount Panorama Bathurst, in the New South Wales region of Australia. The track's synonymous with events such as the Bathurst 1000 and the Bathurst 12 Hour. It is one of the circuits that's up there as one of the most recognisable tracks in the world for its scenery and for its shape. It is perilous and feared around the world for racers and sim racers, but its huge elevation changes, hugely long back straight of speeds in some cars in excess of 200 miles per hour. But today it's home of the MX-5 Cup. I'm Alex Everett of Crest as Autosport, and alongside me, Paul Walsh of TX141. Paul, how are you tonight as we approach the halfway point of the season?
Well, Alex, I'm absolutely excited because tonight's round, if Daytona last week was anything to go by with the Slipstream Fest, today we're not just going to be looking at Slipstream, but we're also going to be looking at a colossal series of battles up, over and down the mountain time and time again. And with us going into the halfway point of the season after tonight, I think everything is on the table for each and every driver taking part, whether they're a relative newcomer tonight or a veteran of the series so far and leading a championship. I think we are going to see drama, fantastic battles. We're going to see a little bit of everything, and hopefully not the Australian wildlife cutting across the circuit and triggering a safety car.
Well, we'll see what happens. Who knows, a random caution might be thrown for a kangaroo on the circuit. Who knows, we'll find out. But a bit more about the circuit. It is an iconic shape, Bathurst is. It's one of those tracks that if you purchase wall art, it's one of those that can go that's common on the walls of sim racing and racing fans around the world. It's up there with Nordschleife, it's up there with Daytona, it's up there with Le Mans, Silverstone, Spa. Mount Panorama is, I would say, is one of the top 5 tracks of the world. Would you agree?
Oh, most definitely. It's one of the best tracks out there, and also one of the biggest tests of confidence indeed. Whilst I consider it to be one of the best, I also absolutely loathe the circuit as a racing driver.
Yeah, I totally agree. There hasn't been a race I've done here where it hasn't had some sort of drama. It's certainly an Achilles heel for some racers, but for spectators, it's spectacular to watch. And the whole season so far has been spectacular to watch. And this is the way the season has gone so far in terms of the schedule. We started off at Silverstone National Circuit, a very short and simple circuit compared to what we've got today. Knock Hill International, new at the time too, iRacing, featured round 2 of the season. And then it was the Red Bull Ring Grand Prix circuit in Spielberg, the Styrian Mountains, for round 3 of the championship. A week off in between, but round 4 headed us over the Atlantic to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for the Montreal circuit to see us into 2022. And of course, last week was the absolute draft fest that was Daytona Road Course, and we saw some real close finishes last week and some real breakthrough victories as well from some drivers. Bathurst today, a completely different nature of circuit, but still high speeds will be fairly common on this circuit with 2 notably long straights. But of course, it's the elevation changes that really will test the drivers in tonight's venue. Next week we have a week off, but when we come back on the 31st of January, it will be back with the Monza circuit, another very fast circuit. Slightly simpler shape and layout to this circuit, but it should see some interesting racing nonetheless. Snetterton layout for round 8 of the championship, with a return to Britain, and then we hop over to Europe and Holland. Zandvoort GP will host 14th of February, round 9 of the championship. Another week off in between rounds 9 and 10, and we'll be back. It's over the Atlantic again, the Interlagos circuit in Brazil for the 28th of February, round 10 of the championship. The final 2 rounds of the championship, though, 2 mammoth circuits, 2 circuits very, very tricky on iRacing and in real life. We've got the Long Beach, which is famous for the Long Beach Grand Prix in IndyCar, but it will host round 11 of the championship in the MX-5 Cup here. And then the final round of the championship, round 12, the Nürburgring VLN layout. The entire Nordschleife will feature in this final round of the championship. A 2-hour endurance instead of the format that we see in all of the other races, including tonight. And of course, For that final round, there'll be double points on offer for the drivers, so plenty at stake in that final round, which is in about 2 months' time. So in the meantime, you may as well subscribe yourself to the channels here on Crest Autosport TV or NXTGEN Racing on Facebook to keep in touch with this series, to keep watching all the weeks as they pass by. We've got 7 rounds left, including today, and it's going to be one hell of a championship from here on. It's been a brilliant championship so far, and the format of the championship looks a little bit like this. We have 3 races in store for you today, but it will start off with qualifying in just about 4 minutes time from now. It'll be a 15-minute session that will set the grid for race 1, the first 15-minute sprint race of the night. There'll be another 15-minute sprint race to follow, where the grid will be formed by the results of race 1, but the top 12, rather than 15 on the image, the top 12 will be reversed. And then race 3, the final race of the night, what we call a feature race, will be a 25-minute race, but a full reverse grid of the finishers from race 2. So plenty of action for you tonight. More than an hour's worth of competitive driving to watch, and all on a very, very tricky circuit indeed. I know we keep alluding to it, Paul, but this is the test that everyone's had their eye on for much of the season. This is the one that there's almost going to be a little bit of tiptoeing around the circuit from some drivers, as this is the circuit you do not want a bad night. If you can get yourself a good night here, it'll be the demise of others, and this is a real crucial point in the championship in that respect.
Oh, most definitely. In this circuit, as you say, Alex, being one of those ones where you have to tiptoe around. And the thing is, what we'll be looking out for here more than anything is a driver who's able to balance the performance of the car over the distance of, say, the first 2 sprint races, the 15-minute races, and also in that final race, the 25-minute race, which, again, a sprint, there's no requirement to change tyres on take on fuel. And what do we mean by balance exactly? Well, it's knowing about when to push the car hard and when to back it off and keep the car in sweet and sensible. And we've seen time and time again in this series, once a driver gets towards the end of what is the 15-minute races 1 and 2, you normally see those tyres start to go off, and here the tyre wear Bathurst is going to be exceptional, because over the mountain in particular, there's just so many instances where we've got sudden change in the angle of the road surface, where the car's going from left to right, and it's case a lot of pressure and wear will be put through the tyres. But we've also got some huge straights here, including the run up the hill, up the mountain straight, up onto the mountain, and also coming all the way down the Conrod straight, and there's going to be major overtaking opportunities, and it's about the driver who gets it right over the entirety of the race who is going to be the winner. But also qualifying, that is where you've literally got to take those bravery pills and go all in here. The best laps we're going to be seeing in qualifying, they will look on edge, because our drivers will be pushing to their utmost round here. There'll be no prizes for taking it easy in qualifying, but there will be prizes for taking it easy in the races. We see somebody just in the distance there trying to vault their way over the tyre barrier at what is the chase chicane. I'm not sure who that was, but somebody deciding they wanted to try and straight line the way on down. That won't be allowed in the race, of course, but this circuit will be a huge change. I bet there's many right now who'll be thinking they've got to get it right tonight in order to have that momentum going into the second half in 2 weeks' time.
Certainly is. And if you're not familiar with Mount Panorama at Bathurst, it is quite a deceptive track, particularly when we watch it on television. We will give you a very thorough track guide of the circuit that will show you what it's like from the POV of these drivers. But first of all, let's head into the championship standings as we approach qualifying. These are the championship standings for the Pro category. So there are 3 categories, just to let you know, in this championship. There's Pro, Pro-Am, and Am category. Now, Pro drivers are labelled, their numbers are labelled with a black coloured background. The Pro-Am drivers are labelled with an orange coloured background, and the Am category driver numbers are labelled with a light blue coloured background. That's how you can tell the categories apart, and each of them have their own scoring system. It is not based on the overall finish position. It is based on the category results. And apologies here, there is a little bit of an incorrection in the teams column here in our points. We'll fix that for next week, of course. But the drivers are correct and the points are correct here. We have Mikey Doble at the top of the standings on 333 points. Adam Delmont in second, just behind, where he's representing Excite iRacing. We have Lee Holmes in third position on 305 points. Deegan Fairclough in fourth position with Nick Clemens in fifth. Jamie Dory, our league host, in sixth with Pete Newman in seventh. Ben Bennyworth eighth with Ollie Peters, who won race 3 last time out at Daytona, is ninth with Sam Smith in 10th. Keith Dempsey is in 11th with Adam Morgan, one of 3 of our BTCC residents, in 12th. Just behind him, another one of our BTCC residents, and Key associate of the series, Bobby Thompson. James Clark in 14th position with Ben Williams in 15th, James Warrior in 16th, John Higgins in 17th, and Daniel Rowbottom, the other of our BTCC residents, in 18th position. And Paul Walsh to talk you through the Pro-Am category standings heading into tonight.
In the Pro-Am Championship, ladies and gentlemen, we can see that Lee Horne currently leading on 352 points with a small advantage over Wayne Douglas, but we have seen time and time again the NXTGEN Racing Orange driver and the Douglas Motorsport driver exchanging that top spot in the Pro-Am Championship, and it is the case neither one able to break away from the other. You've then got a sizable gap to P3 man Liam Silverstone, the XI iRacing driver with Swift Cooper, and it is the case on 290 points. He's leading the pursuit after the top two, but he's only 8 points clear of Craig Cockrell. The Simtech Racing Gold driver having a reasonable time at Daytona last time out, but thinking there might have been some points left on the board. And Nigel Stock there in P5, only a further point down on 281. The Stock Race Respector driver there really coming alive towards the end of this first half of the season. And can Nigel Stock potentially creep his way into the top four, or the top three come the end of tonight? You then got an increased gap there of what is in the region, if I do my math correctly, of 26 points to Aaron Thompson in P6, the Triple B Racing driver, who really leads the charge for the top five with John Burnham, Glenn Humberstone, Lewis Kent and Mark Oliver rounding off your top 10. It's then Callum Jenkins in P11 on 164 points with 8 points ahead of George Watson in P12. David Maguire P13, the Tuning Factory driver, down 149 points. Noel Murray P14 with Alex Denning completing our top 15. And we've got Rob McGregor, Jeff Perkins and Peter Dempsey completing our Pro-Am Championship standings. Back to you, Alex.
And the AM category championship, this has been very exciting as well. A slight issue with our timing screen. We'll refresh that and bring it back. Okay. Here we go with the AM category championship standings. David Whitehouse at the top of the standings, stretching his lead a little bit after the last round at Daytona. Despite his comments in the interview after the race, a few struggles that night, he does extend his lead to 33 points over Paul Scott. Is very much between them two at the moment. But Tom Delaney has put in some good results this season. Third place, can he better himself tonight? Can he get ever closer to the top two here? We'll find out. Mark Arrowsmith in 4th position with Liam Tack in 5th. Martin Smith in 6th place with Dustin Lamb in 7th. Steve Thompson 8th with Simon Robson 9th. And Johnny McMullen, who had his debut last time out of Daytona, sits in 10th place. But with a few rounds behind, he might be able to claw his way up the standings race by race. So we're now into the qualifying session. And there's not going to be many times on the board this early on in the session, but there's a lot of drivers starting their laps already, so we'll get a lap of the circuit very, very soon. But as you mentioned, Paul, qualifying is crucial. Qualifying is crucial in getting a clean lap, because a slight rub of the wall, an off-track penalty, anything like that will cancel out your lap, and it is a very long lap where the track is so demanding on the tyres as well. It is a crucial moment here of the night.
Oh, indeed. And the thing with qualifying as well is it really is the case in these MX-5s. You make one small mistake around this circuit and it is going to absolutely compound your lap time. To give you an idea, over the course of the mountain, our drivers will see their lowest overall speeds over the course of the entire lap around here. But you want to carry as much momentum as possible, particularly when we see our drivers go over the skyline and then down the run all the way through the dipper up towards Forest Elbow and then nailing the exit of Forest Elbow onto the Conroy Straight, the massive straight, the longest straight on this circuit, and where we'll see our drivers go up to the highest possible speed into the chase. They even get it wrong and miss out by 1 to 2 miles an hour, and that is going to completely change the complexion of their qualifying lap. And we'll see a lot of drivers, I think, try to get into the slipstream of another driver coming out of Forest Elbow. For example, here Adam Delmont tucking into the back of one of his fellow XI Racing drivers in the run down towards the chase. And whilst he's got quite a distant gap here of approximately about 7/10 of a second in his pursuit, what you'll notice is he will gradually gain more and more as he makes his way down into the right-hand king before the chicane. And heading up, we'll see our drivers breaking down here at their most into what is 135 miles an hour all the way down to a much higher speed of somewhere in the region of about 65 miles an hour when all is said and done. So the heavy braking zone there will be a test of our drivers' steel and metal, as right now we see Adam Delmont making his way to the final corner here to complete a lap.
And we'll see who ends up on the board at this point in the session. 1 lap already completed, passing the time very well with the championship standings. So Adam Delman puts himself to the top of the standings, and Adam Morgan now takes it away from him just as he crosses the line. So we'll see how many drivers get aborted laps here. There could be quite a few, as I mentioned earlier on. Adam Morgan at the top there, very, very impressive. He actually had a pretty good round last time out at Daytona. Narrowly missed out on a few wins actually last time out. Liam McNeely, he is a new driver to the season, but of course if you are a fan of the Monday Night Next Gen iRacing Leagues, you'll know him from the Legends Cup last season. He was quite the star player in that series, him and Gordon Much having plenty of battles, as well as Mikey Doble as well, involved in those huge battles. But Liam McNeely, expect him to be very, very quick. Very high I rating. I think it's in the region of 7,000, I do believe. So certainly a driver to keep an eye on, and he's currently half a tenth ahead of Adam Morgan as he tries to slot himself into a better train of cars to get a better slipstream. Of course, down the hill through the S's of this circuit, heading down the mountain, of course, on that back straight. And look out for McNeely tonight in the Hellman's mayonnaise car there. I don't think that's a trading paint sliver. I think that's something he's just slapped on the car through iRacing. But good publicity for the mayonnaise company in hindsight. Oh, still excuse me, slight pun in there. But we'll move on very quickly to save the embarrassment. Pete Newman, a driver to look out for tonight. Didn't get so much luck last time out at Daytona, Paul. He's in a good position in the championship, but certainly be looking for a lot better luck, won't he?
Oh, most definitely. I think Newman, he had a difficult time at Daytona, as you say, Alex. Really just couldn't seem to get the results he wanted. He gave it everything, but it just didn't quite come about. And it seemed every time he was within touching distance of the win or the podium, something went wrong. And tonight, well, he's got to try and reverse that and simply now push on and try to get a massive point score here today, Pete Newman, because if he can, it will be a huge boost to his morale going into the second half of the season. I think that's what Newman really needs here. He just needs to get those solid results on the board. And right now, he's doing everything he can, and notice how he's not running in the toe of another drive. He's deciding to put in his opening qualifying laps here as we come to the end of the first half of the qualifying session. 7.5 minutes of the 15 minutes now to go. But Newman deciding to qualify without a slipstream, and I think this is telling. I think he's got a lot of confidence in his own ability around here, because if he didn't quite have that confidence, he might be looking for a toe just to make up for the deficit perhaps on the back straight. But it's looking very good for Newman as we switch over to Adam Delmont and also Ben Williams here. We can see the iRacing drivers forming that pairing once again as they make their way onto another lap, trying to benefit from one another, as meanwhile Nigel Stock just making his way out of the pits there.
And we're getting a few drivers come across the line. We're not seeing many drivers jump up in the standings. As Lewis Kent crosses the line, as does John Burnham. Let's see who else is going to come across the line. We've got Maurice Henry here, new driver, as he slots himself into 9th place. And Jeff Perkis, and welcome back to the series for him, puts himself into 10th position. A very good comeback for him, Pro-Am driver who attended the first round of Silverstone, and we haven't seen him back since. I wonder why. But good to see him back and firing on all cylinders. I know Jeff very well from the Race Room series, run by NXTGEN, of course, over at XR Virtual Motorsports and Crest Autosport as well. Jeff Perkis is one of the most decorated drivers in NXTGEN racing history, winning back in the NXTGEN console days pretty much everything I'm described by other drivers and members of NXTGEN. So it's good to see him high up in the standings here. Nick Clivens, with a completed lap here, puts himself into 4th place. Relatively quiet season for the Simtech driver, but a nice, good qualifying lap there to slap down the gauntlet on other drivers around him, putting himself amongst the big names of Doble, Newman, Morgan and Delmont. Delmont's with a very good session so far. Half a tenth down from McNeely. He can gain that anywhere on this track. It's one of those tracks, Paul, where you can gain a lot in one corner that will benefit the rest, and you can lose a lot in one corner that will make the other corners lose out on your time. It's a very strange track in that sense.
Indeed it is, Alex. It's a very difficult circuit to get perfect, and that's one of the things. When you hook up a perfect lap around here, you'll know it, because it will simply feel as though you have nothing left to give. But as soon as you make one mistake around here, you're going to feel it at the next section. Whether you get it wrong coming out of turn 1 and in the run up the mountain straight, you'll notice it in the fact you don't quite have the straight line speed you'll have wanted in the run into turn number 2, for example, over the mountain. A little bit of oversteer, a little bit of understeer at one corner can completely compromise your line for the rest of the run over the mountain. And then, of course, coming out of for a sailboat and running down down towards the chase on the Conrod Straight. It's a similar picture as going up the mountain, except coming down, and well, it is a case that you come charging down the mountain, regretting that one little mistake, which may be the difference between you setting the ultimate lap time and you missing out on a key position on the grid.
Certainly is. Ben Williams, who was drafting Adam Delmont for much of that lap. A very strategic position swap between the two drivers, timed perfectly, and it puts Ben Williams in a very healthy 8th position in the session here, and Adam Delmont also retires to the pits. They'll be able to head back out on track and get at least one more lap in. The lap round here is 2.5 minutes, so at this point drivers will be able to get 1 or 2 more laps in if they are already out on the track, so it is quite a crucial point in the session here. Let's see what else is going on out on track. Not many drivers putting in quicker lap times. There's a lot of drivers reverting to the pits actually, deciding now to take on new tyres. We've got Adam Morgan slowing here on the straight. I think he is trying to get himself a good distance from the cars in front, or he's trying to let the car behind. Can't quite tell. That's Pete Newman behind. Yeah, trying to get Pete Newman ahead. That would definitely be a good car to follow on a lap.
Almost definitely. And I think one of the things as well is I think a lot of drivers now who are out on circuits, so particularly like Sir Pete Newman also, will be noticing how the fact there's a lot of drivers in the pits and could be coming out, and do they want to get caught up behind the long train of drivers? And I think what Adam Morgan's done here, as you were saying, Alex, he's simply let Pete Newman get ahead, and he's now going to ride behind him in order to be able to gain the tyre around the entirety of the lap. But then if we look at the circuit radar in the right hand side of our screen, you can see, look at that train of cars led by David Whitehouse making their way up to turn 2. And that train, well, that's got to be at least, I would say, about 10 drivers all in that sequence making their way up, and Lee Horne just behind David Whitehouse right now and giving himself about a 1.5 second window to the back of the Duck Racing machine as they all make their way through 2 and up into 3. And this is the hard part, as we do see the number 69 driver just phasing in and out of existence through a latency, no doubt. And there's Jamie Dory right in the middle of this pack, and that's the thing now, they've all committed themselves to being in the slipstream train. But you imagine one driver gets it wrong at the head of the pack, and then everybody behind has to navigate past and potentially come off the optimal line for the brevity of a part of the lap, and that could completely throw the lap into the bin.
Absolutely, and to allude on the point you made there for the races equally, there could be a few cautions tonight. A sideways moment from any of the drivers could cause quite the kerfuffle for the grid here. Oh, it's Jamie Dory trying to take the optimal line through the corner there. There's a car on the inside running slow, and that puts Jamie Dory out of the session. Jamie Dory with no time set, and that means Jamie Dory will start from the back of the grid, or near the back of the grid anyway, based on iRacing for the drivers who do not set a time. And some of those drivers are some fairly big names in this series. David Whitehouse, no time set from him. We can see him out on track. This might be the lap that he actually puts in a time. Lee Horne hasn't set a time. He's just behind David Whitehouse there. Deegan Fairclough hasn't set a time. I believe he's a little bit busy at the moment, but we'll come back to him shortly. Callum Jenkins, Lewis Kent and Wayne Douglas haven't set times. So Wayne Douglas and Lee Horne, the top 2 in the Pro-Am category in the championship, no times from them so far.
I think this may also be a blessing in disguise for them as they get ready to perhaps go on to a lap, because even if they don't set one, though, I think they might be priding on the fact there could be a major incident on the opening lap as David Whitehouse leads Lee Horne down towards the final corner, and it's only one instant that's required in order to trigger the safety cars. We see an instant further back there while the Excite machine's getting it very wrong coming out of turn 22, but David Whitehouse and Lee Horne coming on through that final corner, and let's see what the Seesaw Digital Racing with D&D Wildcard Racing drivers are able to achieve. He puts himself P22. It's not provisional pole position in class, however, as he goes on to the final lap. It's only good enough for P2, with Tom Delaney still holding on to the provisional lead of the AM drivers. And look at Lee Horne here coming out of turn 1. It is the case that he feels as though he's got a lot more pace as he makes his way out of the corner and now goes roaring up the hill, up the mountain straight. And well, the number 36 driver, can you fault him? I think he feels as though he's got a lot to give on this lap, and it's critical right now because he's only P14 at this time, P4 in class. And well, it's Craig Cockrell who's currently the provisional leader in this qualifying session of the Pro-Ams. But it does look as though, as he makes his way on from, we look to Jay Elliott coming on down towards the chase chicane right now. The privateer currently what is P23, just keeping it nice and smooth for the time being, making his way on through. And one of our debutants tonight, and well, he's having a reasonable debut. He's put a lap time in, perhaps not one of the best lap times, but I think just finding his feet.
Yeah, exactly. When you find yourself in a new league, you just want to settle in. You keep yourself relatively quiet, keep your nose out of trouble, and that's all Jay Elliott will be looking for tonight. So we see how he gets on with this lap. Is it an improvement? Let's see if he gains a few positions. I don't think he does. He stays 23rd at the moment. So we'll see how he gets on during the night. Let's see what else is going on out on track. Ollie Peters is approaching the end of his lap here. Can he get himself higher up? 7th place for him. And Ollie Peters had a real good run of form recently. He won race 3 last time out at Daytona. And of course, he did the Raw before the 24. Just on the weekend just gone, and he did have a chance of winning, but an incident involving him and another driver put him out of contention, so rather unlucky for him. We've also got Callum Jenkins finishing a lap here, good slipstream, and he puts himself into 7th place, puts himself on the board, gets a lap time done, and that is good news for him. It puts him on the grid. We have also got a few other drivers out there. We've got Liam McNeely still out there, and I think he might have just done a strategic position swap with, I believe that's Maurice Henry behind him. So the end of the lap here for Liam McNeely, he might well extend his lead in qualifying here, but it's relatively safe. The only threat, I would say, is Pete Newman and Mikey Doble, so quite the threat, actually. So let's see how Liam gets on here. Crosses the line, McNeely stays where he is on the same time he has, but it's pole position provisionally at the moment. We've got Lee Horne towards the end of his lap here. Pulls off into the pits, he decides to have enough. James Clark has just crossed the line, and he puts himself pole position for the category of Pro-Ams into the top 10 overall. A brilliant final lap from the Swift Cooper driver to get himself top of the category. Let's see who else is out there. We've got Pete Newman, and up ahead we also have Paul Scott in the AM category. Runs a little bit wide coming out the final corner there. Does Scott of Next Gen Racing. Across the line he will go, and will this be enough to put himself pole in the AM category? No, it isn't, but Pete Newman crosses the line. He doesn't improve on his lap. I think he stops before the line, in fact, and that will be 5th position for Newman. So it's McNeely, his first race of the season, and he puts himself top of the standings. I did say it's Paul. He's one to look out for.
Oh, most definitely. You're right, Alex. And well, putting himself pole by almost 3/10 of a second. Now, that is a statement here at Bathurst. That 3/10 of a second does not just come naturally. You've got to work that lap from start to finish. And now the big question will be, of course, will he be able to hold on to that lead come the end of the opening 2 sectors, and particularly the run up towards what is the cutting at turns 3 and 4? Will we see McNeely at the head of the pack, or will we see Adam Delmont, Adam Morgan, or Nick Clibbens have something to say about it? But excuse me, some surprises to be sure in this qualifying session. James Clark, for example, putting in a great lap to take the pole position in the Pro-Am class. And also Tom Delaney really putting himself a sizable margin ahead of David Whitehouse. Although I say sizable margin, it's only a 2-place difference between the two of them. But still, against the run of form that we've seen, I think we have got quite a few shocks ahead on the road.
Absolutely. And just a little bit of news before we head into the race. We do have a few pit starters, I believe. Deegan Fairclough, one of the stars in the pro category, he does have a qualifying ban, so he'll have to start at the back of the grid. And the same for Wayne Douglas, and that was from instance that happened at Daytona last time out. So the stewarding panel decided on those reprimands, I suppose they're called, for this race here, keeping things well in check, and it just means that Deegan Fairclough and Wayne Douglas have a bit of a task to do in this opening race of the night. So we'll certainly track the progress as the night goes on. And there's a couple of drivers still out there setting times, and I think we'll tick over very, very shortly to the race here, as Maurice Henry puts himself in 12th place, I think, on that final lap there. But we'll go through the results of qualifying. That will therefore be the grid for this opening race of the night. We have got Liam McNeely on the pole spot with Adam Delmont in 2nd position. In 3rd place, we've got Adam Morgan, our BTCC resident, with Nick Clibbens alongside in 4th position. Pete Newman 5th, with Ben Williams in 6th position alongside him. Mikey Doble, our championship lead in the pro category, 7th, with Ollie Peters, our race 3 winner from Daytona, in 8th. James Clark 9th, with Sam Smith in 10th, and Craig Cockrell in 11th place, with Maurice Henry, no category for him at the moment, but he's in 12th position. Jeff Perkins in 13th, with Lee Horne, the leader of the Pro-Am category championship, alongside him 14th, with Lee Holmes in 15th, and Ben Bennyworth in 16th. Callum Callum Jenkins 17th with Glenn Humberston in 18th position. Nigel Stock 19th place with John Burnham in 20th. Tom Delaney first of the AM category drivers in 21st with George Watson in 22nd. David Whitehouse will take the 23rd spot with Jay Elliott, current privateer and no category for him, in 24th. Paul Scott 25th with Mark Oliver alongside in 26th. Deacon Fairclough starting at the back of the grid in 27th. No time set from Jamie Dory due to the incident we saw. Wayne Douglas serving a back of grid penalty, and Lewis Kent no time set in qualifying. Our 30-car grid is nearly set, and we'll be getting underway very, very shortly for this opening race of the night for the 6th round of the championship here at Bathurst Mount Panorama circuit in New South Wales, Australia. And, well, let's see how this goes, Paul. Tricky track and a tricky car to tame, a tricky championship as well.
Indeed, and one thing I've just noticed, Alex, local temperature 51 degrees centigrade. I can only imagine what the track temperature must be right now. That is a scorcher. Those tyres are going to go through a huge, huge wear cycle over the course of even 15 minutes. I wonder if the rubber's going to last even 10 minutes at this rate.
Yeah, that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on, and well spotted, Paul. But it's surprising we're not feeling the heat in our nice and cool comms box here. But anyway, enough about the air conditioning here. We're about to get underway for the first race of the night. 5 lights, and now we're out, and away we go. Cars line up around the corner. We can just see them peel around the corner, but is away at the front here. Liam McNee will peel into turn 1. Leader of the pack with Adam Delmont just behind in 2nd place. Morgan comes through in 3rd place, and not much side-by-side action just yet. Up the hill we go towards the right-hander of turn 2. Oh, there's a spin in the background there. That is Tom Delaney. He spins. He doesn't collect any cars, but he reverses it as quickly as he can to get it going to try and catch up with the pack. Luckily, he'll be getting away with that and be able to carry on here in the race. Slipstream in, bump drafting here from Adam Delmont on the back of Liam McNally. Into turn 2 we go. We also got Pete Newman up the inside of Nick Clibbins here, going into turn 2 and up the hill. A good exit is needed to get up this hill with the low torque cars here. It is crucial to get a good exit from these corners. Up the hill we go and into the narrow left-hander hairpin here. Through we go. No dramas so far. Touch wood. Thank God for that. And drivers peel through at the top of the mountain here, Paul. Nice and safe so far.
Yeah, it's been quite an uneventful start compared to what we could have perhaps expected, although to be fair, I think given the low torque of the cars, we're not seeing too much from our drivers. But one thing that's worth noting as well is whilst Pete Newman did try and go for the move through turn 2, it was the fact that in the end, because he was on that inside line, he wasn't able to get the throttle down as much as he'd like. He had to give Clibbins the space, and well, I think we're going to be seeing quite a bit of that for this open lap, where everyone's just trying to get into a rhythm here, get through that first lap, and then start to build the confidence as they all make their way down through the skyline and now into the dip here as Adam Morgan in P3 finds himself on the offensive versus what is Adam Delmont just ahead, and behind Nick Clibbins, they're just carrying that momentum on through. But everybody right now just getting themselves into rhythm, and as it's that's George Watson, the first and racing driver, into the wall there, coming out of what was the skyline and down towards the dip, and just losing the rear end by looks of things on the curves. He just moves out the way of Tom Delaney, who almost came through with him, and as he gets up to speed, oh goodness me, and Deegan Fairclough just dodging there as well, as all of our drivers have made it through bar 1, and we can see in the run down Conrad now right on board with Adam Delmont, who's on the offensive here, and he's going to be made to go to the inside to outside line here as they come down through 21, down through 20 and into turn 21. Under the brakes they go into the chase, and you can see McNally keeping it nice and smooth right now, not being intimidated by the presence of the Excite Racing driver behind as they come out of the chicane and now make their way down towards the final corner. A bit further back, Maurice Henry on his debut putting in a very strong one as we take a look back only moments ago at what happened there, and Henry making the moving a bit of contact there by the looks of things as he made the pass with the driver alongside him. I think there might be a little bit of a finger wag from the stewards following that one, as meanwhile we can see coming into the pits is Ben Williams. It seems he's had a bit of an incident.
Yes, he has, as has Callum Jenkins. Not entirely sure why these drivers are in the pits, but it is a bad start to the night for these drivers, and it means they'll be sent to the back of the grid, and unless there's a caution that comes out, which is highly likely on this track, it's got to be said. We'll see what happens to them. They might be able to catch up through that. Oh, we've got an instant further back. David Whitehouse has had a spin. That is coming out of turn 1. We'll try and get a quick replay to see what happened to the AM category championship leader. All on his own here. Into turn 1 goes the Duck Song livery car, and it might be a step out of the rear. Yes, it was. Just turned the car a little bit too much, and it sends it round, and he loses a lot of momentum, a lot of positions as a result. But look at all these cars here, Paul. 5 cars battling at the front here as we head to the top of the mountain.
Indeed, onto our second lap now under the race pace conditions, and as they make their way on through, now this is where Delmont will be starting to just look at the little twitches that Mcnee makes. So in terms of when he slightly moves out of step with regards to the race lines, of course, overtaking not really possible here as they make their way up towards Philomene Park or turn 10 in the numbering, but as they make their way through the left hand, now it is the case that it's all about observing when the driver in front of you makes those tiny little errors. As we can see everybody there running up onto the exit curbing and now coming down through Skyline. Very tricky down through Skyline. In this sequence as well, it pays to be the lead driver for the simple reason, if you're at the back and you've got that concertina effect of the 5 guys in front as our top 6 all come crash on through, you've got to be the one who lifts off earlier than most in order to keep the car stable. Of course, you lift off, then the rear of the car starts to essentially wobble around because you haven't got the throttle being put down, you haven't got the rear wheels having to try and apply that traction down on the circuit, and that is the balancing act that our drivers in this slipstream train have to form, and that's why right now we can see that the Brit and Liam McNeely doing a very effective job here of just proving to be too difficult to catch and also just ahead enough when he needs to be. But now as they come down at Conrad, will it be the case that Delmont's able to use the slipstream this time to try and send it up the inside into the chase? He's looking for it, but he backs out in, but a bit further back we can see, I think that's Mikey Doble looking for a move on Pete Newman, but he wasn't close enough. He backs out instead and waits for another opportunity here. I think everybody just playing the long game and looking for that moment, because at any moment they get it wrong and it could be the case that we do see a caution come out as Jamie Dory here having to work against what is Nigel Stock. As meanwhile up front, Adam Delmont under pressure here from Adam Morgan as they come to the end of lap number 2, and Adam Morgan has to back out as Delmont holds position, but meanwhile Nick Clibbins, where is the case, he's looking for the move as they make their way under braking here. No way through this time. It's enough to go too wide through turn number 1. They are as they were, but now Adam Morgan losing a lot of momentum, it would seem, from that one attempt versus Delmont, and now up the hill they go towards turn number 2 once again.
Big battling here at the front. There's a few battles at the further down the grid I do want to take a look at some point, but we'll just keep an eye on Nick Clibbins and Pete Newman for the time being here. Clibbins rather riskily going across the track there to guard the outside, and Mikey Doble makes the move up the inside of Pete Newman. He also has the inside of Nick Clibbins. It could be a 3 wide here going up the hill, heading towards the top of the mountain. Let's see who's got the best momentum into the corner. Mikey Doble definitely has the weaker line. Out to the outside goes Nick Clibbins, and on the inside goes Pete Newman. It's back to normal. It's back to the way it was just a few moments ago. Meanwhile, further back, we have got Ollie Peters, who's put himself through into 7th place. James Clark, leader at the Pro-Am category, has got his way past Sam Smith and Maurice Henry as well, putting himself clear of his rivals, Craig Cockrell and Lee Horne, back here in 11th and 12th overall. Lee Horne being the blockade here for Lee Holmes, who's meant to be fighting in the Pro Championship, and he is so far nowhere to be seen in respect of Mikey Doble and Adam Delmont towards the front. So a tricky night in the making here potentially for Lee Holmes, but we'll see how he gets on as the night pursues. Our biggest mover of the field so far, though, as usual actually, it's Jamie Dory, the king of Forever Forward, and of course he won the Forever Forward award in the just gone by Race Room Championship, the World Touring Car Challenge, hosted on Thursdays by NXTGEN Racing. And that certainly proves how good he is at coming through the field. And it remains to be carrying on here as he makes his way up towards Glenn Humberston, who's on the end of this train here, which stretches as far as Craig Cockrell at the front here. But let's resume to the cars at the front. Let's see if there's any moves in the making here. The 2 at the front here, Paul, they've broken clear on this lap.
Yeah, it does indeed look as though that is the case, Alex. And I think one of the key things right now is after Adam Morgan had that attempt at Adam Delmont at the end of the previous lap, which didn't quite go his way, and he had to go defensive versus Nick Clibbins. You can see now how the top 2 have just got that space. But in return, Adam Morgan has broken away from Nick Clibbins, what with Clibbins having to defend versus Newman and Mikey Doble. As meanwhile, we see Sam Smith there taking a bit of a rally cross line, it would seem, coming through the chase chicane and now returning to the circuit. Let's just take a look what happened here. So he came in very heavy on the brakes, and the car just snapped on him. You could see the snake in under braking, but the car just could not retard enough. And as a result, he had to chuck the car to the outside and just run across the circuit. He will have lost a lot of time there, but he did the right thing, moved out of the way of the other drivers rather than try and turn the car in, which we could see a driver do if they get it wrong. But it's the case, Sam Smith very smart there and back underway racing. But we look back towards the leaders right now, and I think the question really for Mcnee and Delmont right now is, do they battle one another with 7 minutes to go plus the final lap and essentially expose themselves to turn it back into a battle for where it's P1 through to P6, or do they stay selfish and make it a battle between P1 Peters. Meanwhile, it is the case that Ollie Peters here, well, he has got Maurice Henry looking for the move up the inside into 2. He's not quite there, but Maurice Henry has made Ollie Peters go deep under braking, and that is how he's going to get the momentum at now as they make the way up in towards the cutting here. Turns 3 and 4, and you can see behind Clark and Cockrell both looking for the move, but it's Maurice Henry on the outside here, and if he's going to hang this around the outside, this is going to be very brave stuff. But no, Ollie Peters sends it under braking, as you can do into turn 4 in such low speed cars here, and he's got the position back. But it is the case, Ollie Peters really up against it right now, the Crest Autosport driver, and I think here's one of the situations where Henry just has a bit more momentum and he's trying to find the place to go for the overtake.
Yes, he is. He's trying always to get by Ollie Peters, who's defending very, very well indeed. This is a part of the track where you do not want to lose momentum, though. Ollie Peters has to be brave here. Maurice Henry has to be very, very careful, as well as James Clark took a look to the inside as the 5 cars in a crocodile going down the hill here. And look at them all S-ing through these right, left. Such a fast complex of the circuit, terrifying part of the circuit, and you're getting so perilously close to the walls. Braking heavy into this left-hander here, and onto the long straight we go. Ollie Peters currently holds 7th place, but he's trying to break the slipstream already. He knows he might be a sitting duck to a few of these drivers behind. He moves across the track where possible, guards the outside for the upcoming corner, but moves back across the track, which he's allowed to do. He's only made the 1 move now, but Maurice Henry will take to the outside for the next corner here. This is the battle for 7th overall, and here we go, and to the outside there goes James Clark as well. Oh, is Ollie Peters given a bit of room to Maurice Henry, who got a little bit out of shape under braking, but ultimately takes 7th position. Ollie Peters tucks back in behind, taking a lot of the curb to try and stay ahead of James Clark. But fantastic battling from these drivers so far. Back at the front, Mcnee and Delmont still fairly clear of Adam Morgan and co. But their battle rages on, and no position swap from them so far. Leader of the AM category, as we haven't really touched on them yet, it is Paul Scott at the front, and he's got Deegan Fairclough right behind him, who did start from the pits. In fact, it wasn't a back of grid penalty, and he is closing in on the driver here, and this will put Deegan Fairclough in, he is at the moment anyway, 11th position. And we did have an incident just then, that was Lewis Kent. We'll get a quick replay of that. Lewis Kent coming into the final corner here. He's on his own. Into the corner we go, similar to what we saw with David. Well, he just goes wide, powers it through the corner too much and couldn't quite avoid the tyre stack on the outside there. Gets himself out of the way of the oncoming drivers. That was Paul Scott and Deegan Fairclough we just saw. But gets himself away, up and away, and is able to carry on. But let's see what else is going out on track here. Look at this, 3 wide going into the hairpin here. This is Ollie Peters versus, I think that was Lee Holmes. Was it Lee Holmes or Craig Cockrell on the outside? Not quite sure.
Cockrell battling with him.
As it was, and they both somehow managed to get through unscathed. A little bit of a touch there, and still managed to keep going. Rather impressive indeed. Ollie Peters trying to keep it to the inside, trying to catch back up with Maurice Henry. James Clark on his outside. You've got to say, Ollie Peters definitely has the better line, and he does. He gets it through back into 8th place, and now he can set his sights on the car ahead.
But he's got to be very careful, Ollie Peters, though, because every time he runs one of those tight lines, particularly for the run of turn 8 up to 10 and intimate Phillamy, he will be unsettling the car, and he's trying to carry a lot of momentum here in the pursuit of Henry. But to be fair as well, it is the case that Clark and Cockrell have been given him the space. Brilliant battling between these guys, and Henry there having a really poor run out of the dip, and you can see Ollie Peters all over the back of us. They now come down to Forest Elbow. They snake the way under braking here into what is turn number 18 as they make the way on through, and now in towards the what is the Conroy Straight. You can see they're just at the rear. Lee Holmes just tapping the exit wall with the rear right hand side of the car, and that's going to cost him a little bit of time. And you can see how he's already dropping away briefly from Craig Cockrell, as now he'll have Lee Horne close up further back. We can see Jamie Dory trying to go side by side with what is there. That's then Humberstone, I believe. And as they make their way side by side in the long run down the straight here, it is the case everybody looking for an opportunity. As meanwhile, the head of this packet is the case that Ollie Peters has got back ahead of Maurice Henry, but there's a bit of a contact moment there by the looks of things, with Henry up the inside right now, and he's going to go all in, and he just about keeps it on circuit. Or in fact, I think he puts all 4 wheels wide on Ollie Peters. I'm not sure if there was contact there between the two of them, but Ollie Peters experienced a bit of rallycross mountains. Maurice Henry goes defensive here down into the final corner. One more lap after this, and these guys are getting the elbows out, and then some as they go 2 by 2 coming out of the final corner, and now they, oh goodness me, and I think that might be Clark, and well, it's all kicked off.
Yeah, that was just waiting to happen. A few too many elbows out, it seems there, and Lee Holmes has come off worse for wear, as has Craig Cockrell. The white flag waves in the background, and it could have been for these drivers that they could have just got to the finish. We will review that instant after the race. But yeah, big drama here in the mid-pack, it's got to be said. And Lee Horne is one of the drivers that's come through off better than the others. He's put himself into first in category, first in the Pro-Am category. And this is really a sum up of Lee Horne's season, that he's just in these good places at the right times here, and he's picking up points by just keeping himself clean. It's absolutely a job well done for him so far, and he's just got to keep his nose out of trouble. He's got the furious fighting Ollie Peters and Maurice Henry ahead, a battle that's raged on for the whole race here. But we're going to resume towards the front as this final lap, half a lap, will climax between Mcnee and Delmont. He's been close between them for the whole race, but Delmont hasn't been able to line up a move. Is he holding off a move? Has he been planning his move for this final burst towards the end of this race? Oh, as Mcnee goes wide. That's it, he's gone wide. He outbroke himself going into the chicane there, coming down the hill, and that allows Delmont through. That could be a crucial moment. Currently, Mcnee has no category, but it's likely he'll end up in pro category, and Delmont has swapped positions back. Perhaps it was done on purpose, perhaps he thought it was done on purpose. But Delmont will be in the position to draft Mcnee down the straight. But has he lost too much momentum? He might well have. Mcnee is quite some way ahead. Delmont has got to draft him big coming down this straight here. And he's got to make a daring move down the inside. He's also got the threat of Adam Morgan and Mikey Doble and co behind. Let's see what happens, what materialises from this. Mikey Doble will take to the inside of Adam Morgan going into the final few corners. This is the only move that's materialised from this. Oh, Adam Morgan now breaks himself and goes wide. Adam Morgan will drop to at least 5th place, 6th place now, as Mikey Doble gets through into 3rd position. But the winner of the race potentially here is it's still a battle though between him and Adam Delmont into the final corner. Delmont hangs around the outside, but he's outbroke himself. He will hit the wall, and Adam Delmont is out before he even reaches the line. Mcnee gets the line in first, but Mikey Doble will take 2nd place from Pete Newman in 3rd. Wow, what an end to that race. Adam Delmont gets through into 6th place in the end, but pushing just a little bit too hard on that final corner. A bit of tri-line fever, and it put him 6th place in the end, Paul. Our winner, though, in the Pro-Am category, Lee Horne, and in the Am category, Paul Scott. But what about that finish there?
Oh my goodness, Alex, you couldn't have said it better. Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. It's their case. They, in the end, just pushing it a little bit too much when it was right there, the finish line. And in the end, what was a certain P2, just that going away and becoming a P6. But to give credit to Delmont, he threw everything at it. And, well, we were saying about whether it was perhaps intentional, Mcnee and also Delmont just making their respective quote-unquote mistakes, with Mcnee getting it wrong in the run into the dipper and Delmont in the braking zone into Forest Hill. But I do think that both drivers made major errors there, because it was the case, but particularly Delmont lost out massively. You could see that scramble in the run down towards the chase where he just wanted to try and close up. And looking at it back right now, you can see that is the case. The rear of the car just simply did not want to rotate through for Mcnee. And then watching this as they come down into Forest Elbow, it's the case that Delmont, as he comes on front, get the feeling, brakes initially, brakes again, and then he has to tap the brakes on a 3rd time, and the car goes very deep. And as they make the way on through, it is the case. I think Delmont just bit off a little bit more than he could chew in the braking zone there, and the car rolled away from him. And then when he tried to get back up to speed, this is where he just didn't have that momentum. And then Mikey Doble, meanwhile, chasing after what is the car gods machine of Adam Morgan as they make the way on down. And Mikey Doble, well, it is a case that he's let this race gradually come to him. He qualified outside the top 5, but in the end, he managed to make his way all the way up onto the podium. And how's this for saving at last moment? Adam Morgan, to be fair, didn't really fight this one too hard, although you can see there Mikey Doble having to back out under braking, but Adam Morgan just getting it a little bit deep there on the brakes and making an error, but an uncharacteristic error, and Mikey Doble gaining the place. And then right at the end, Adam Delmont, well, to be fair, very brave to look to go to the outside for a cutback, but what you can see is Mcnee anticipated it and parked it on the apex nice enough, and Delmont just got the throttle on, and well, quick reactions there from Pete Newman, who almost got collected by Delmont's spin.
Very unfortunate there from Adam Delmont. He drove such a good race as well. I feel like he just thought, sod it, I'll go for it. That's probably what was going through his head on that final corner there. But yeah, valiant effort from Delmont. 6th place in the end. He loses a few championship points to Mikey Doble, which is probably the news he didn't want to hear. But yeah, fantastic, fantastic end to that race. And that's not the end of it. We also have an incident we'd like to check out. That was, I think, towards the beginning of that lap. And I think it started with the... No, it didn't start with James Clark. Let's see if I can find it a little bit further back. It was it was at the start of the lap. It was between Lee Holmes and Craig Cockrell. And we have to slip back even further than that. So this is the view from Craig Cockrell coming out of the corner here. I think it was up ahead. Yes, it was. It was initially between James Clark and Maurice Henry, and it just causes that whole kerfuffle of incidents which collaborated to Cockrell retiring from the race or finishing low down in this race. So look ahead to James Clark and Maurice Henry there, and that causes Holmes and Cockrell to come together there. They were just passengers in that, it seems. To get another quick look at it here.
I think the challenge here really for Cockrell, so watch Clark and Henry ahead. Yeah. So they're making contact, and Clark returning to the circuit really doesn't give Cockrell, alternatively the other drivers around him, anywhere to go. So they have to take evasive action, but they've got to do so in such a tight period of time. And also notice how Ollie Peters, I'm not saying that it's his mistake by the way, but Ollie Peters was actually going quite slowly coming onto that straight, and that only compounded the issue. I think it was bad placement from multiple drivers at the wrong time, with the two drivers right at the front, of course, getting into a little bit of an elbow match there, and then that just kicked it all off, and really it was a rather toxic cocktail which saw Craig Cockrell in the end losing outright as he went on to the final lap. And multiple drivers, as you can see, Lee Horne here, well, he had the popcorn seat view. He tapped the back of Cockrell there just out of what was misanticipation, but no harm meant or no malice meant there. But Lee Horne getting away with what could have been an absolute nightmare for his race as well, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just Constantine is up a little bit. Ollie Peters running a bit slow back here, and then Craig Cockrell almost stamps on the brakes because Ollie Peters has appeared right back in front of him. And it was the initial knock from Lee Horne that probably started the incident. But the cause of that incident, not really too sure. It's a lot of incidents in one there. It's one for the stewards after all. As we mentioned, almost every stream here, we are not stewards, we are commentators. What do we know about stewarding? Not much, clearly. But yeah, the winner of that race there, Liam McNeely, presumably will be categorised as pro category by the end of the night. A rather late entrant into the series. A very, very good race for him. Led from lights to flag. Had a lot of pressure throughout that race, and he withheld it well.
Oh, most definitely. I think the one thing that was really telling with him was that he just deployed the pace at the right times in order to hold on to that lead. And particularly when he was going over the mountain, you could see just how in control he was. And really, he made it a case that it was Delmont who had to work incredibly hard to stay with him throughout, as we're looking back at the replay footage here. And it's just an example. As they come over Skyline, watch how Delmont will fall back a little bit, because he has to try and balance, keeping close with the fact that Dirty Air. But of course, this is where the mistake occurred. But even then, McNee didn't seem to be too perturbed by the mistake under braking, and well, he just simply came back immediately. It's almost as if it was just a chip on his shoulder. He brushed it off immediately and said, right, back with the racing, I still want the win. And even there, as they went into Forest Selva, you could see how he reacted to Delmont. And well, I think in the end it's the case he just simply had a tool in his arsenal for everything Delmont could throw at him. And it'll be interesting to see with the partial reverse grid for race number 2 how McNeely does from P12, because he's going to be coming through the field rather rapidly, I reckon. And will he be able to siphon his way all the way up into lead once again?
Absolutely. And you just alluded to the reverse grid, and we'll go through the results of this race that will also form the grid for the next race, and we'll pass on into the next server very shortly. But Liam McNeely, new to this season, an old friend of the Legends Cup we had last season, takes the win here at Bathurst for the first race of the night, with Mikey Doble taking another podium this season. Second place for him. Pete Newman, a good strong result for him in third place, with Nick Clibbins in fourth position, peeling through with the demise of Adam Morgan and Adam Delmont on the final laps there. Maurice Henry in 7th place, a dramatic finish for him, and Ollie Peters 7th and 8th for them, and a Pro-Am category win for Lee Horne in 9th place, with his teammate Jamie Dory in 10th position, 18 places gained, biggest gainer of the field as per usual. Ben Bennyworth in 11th place, with Glenn Humberston 12th. 12th place means he'll be reverse grid pole sitter for race 2 of the night. Well done to Glenn indeed. John Burnham misses out, 13th for him, with Deegan Fairclough, who came through the grid 13 places gained from the pits, 14th position for him. Paul Scott, the winner of the AM category in this race, with a little bit of bad luck for Tom Delaney and David Whitehouse during that race. A category win for himself, 15th position. In 16th place to Lewis Kent, and Sam Smith in 17th with Jeff Perkis in 18th. Tom Delaney in 19th with a good recovery after his spin on lap 1. Wayne Douglas recovering from the pit start. He had 20th for him. Mark Oliver in 21st with Ben Williams in 22nd. Callum Jenkins 23rd. Lee Holmes with the instant on the final lap there, or starting the final lap. 24th for him with James Clark in 25th, also involved in that instant. And George Watson, a retirement in the race as well as Craig Cockrell. We were just watching the instant with him, Lee Holmes and others. Jay Elliott 29th with David Whitehouse in 30th position. And they were the results of the first race of the night here. And we're going to go away for a very quick break here while we load up race 2. When we come back, it'll be another 15-minute sprint race for this 6th round of the championship, the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup. We'll be back very soon. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone, to Australia for the 6th round of the championship. Race 2 coming up very, very shortly in about 3 minutes' time. And what a race 1 we had there. Very hot, sticky weather, and very hot inside the cockpits of these Mazda MX-5s. A few notable incidents in those races there that caught the eyes of us, particularly on the final 2 laps. Of course, we saw the incident for the battle for 7th place, and we saw the incident from Adam Delmont himself on the final corner. But a new race now, a clean slate for these drivers, pick up some more points, some extra points, reverse grids to favour some of these drivers, and we'll see how we get on as the next race materialises. But something we didn't do in qualifying earlier on is get an onboard lap of the track, which I do owe it to Paul, as he does it very, very well week in, week out. So I think without further ado, we will eventually get an onboard lap with Liam McNeely, our race 1 winner here at Bathurst. If he can get through this little bit here.
Me, that's contact there.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're doing a lap with Liam McNeely now, but we do owe it to you. And we will give it to you, Paul. It's something we always do, always look forward to it on these broadcasts in the qualifying, and we've got to deliver on it. But the next race of the night here, Paul, are we going to see much of the same, or do you think it's going to be a completely different racing contrast?
I think this one, we're going to see a bit more of an aggressive start. Race number 1, well, I'll be honest with you, I was really shocked at how quiet the start of race number 1 was. It was the fact that we didn't really see many overtakes into the opening 2 to 4 corners. Everybody seemed to fall into a rhythm quite early on. I think now that we've got the partial reverse grid, we could see our top 12 in particular get quite the elbows out early on. There's also some drivers who are out of position where they had incidents on the opening race, so they'll be starting towards the back. And I think now it is going to be a bit of, if you say that rapidly, a bit of a mad dash. One other thing as well, track temperature's dropped by 8 degrees centigrade. It's down to 43 now, and what that's going to mean, or in fact 41 there as we see on the charts, what it will mean is that now our drivers can push a little bit more on the tyres, because it did look as though towards the end of race number 1, whilst we didn't see too many instances, I think some drivers were just trying to look after their tyres a little bit more, but now it will be the case that everyone will feel as though they can just take things to a little bit more of an extreme, but we'll have to wait and see just how hard everybody pushes here. But I think we will see a bit more action throughout the race, rather than it being the last couple of laps where it really comes alive. Not to say that's not a good thing, but I think in race number 2 we're going to be seeing the action flow a little bit more.
We will see. We will see. One thing I thought about with the expectation of an action-packed race, but we actually got a very quiet opener to that race. A lot of the drivers might have been thinking the same as us, and therefore pulled themselves back a little bit, just conserved themselves a little bit in the early part of that race, let everything materialise and establish where they are on the track, in the race, on the grid, and then hit their markers and took action right away towards the end of the race. And we certainly saw that from a few drivers taking a lot of risky moves towards the end of that race, which really, really did pick things up. But we're about to get underway for this next race of the night, and it will be Paul Walsh who will show you through the grid that will form for this second race of the night.
So going into race number 2 with the top 12 reverse, it's Glenn Humberstone who starts on pole. The Pro-Am driver, Ben Bennyworth, alongside him. Jamie Dory and Lee Horne on row number 2, with Ollie Peters and Maurice Henry on row number 3. Adam Delmont and Adam Morgan on row 4. Nick Clemens and Pete Newman completing your top 10. Mikey Doble and Liam McNeely starting P11, P12 with John Burnham and Deegan Fairclough, P13, P14, Paul Scott and Lewis Kent. Then it's Sam Smith and Jeff Perkins on row number 9, and Tom Delaney and Wayne Douglas on row 10. Mark Oliver and Ben Williams on the 11th row with Callum Jenkins and Lee Holmes behind. James Clark and Nigel Stock on the 13th row with George Watson and Craig Cockrell on row 14. And then to complete our order, it's Jay Elliott and David Whitehouse starting from the back. And David Whitehouse will have it all to do today. I think it will be the case that our championship leader in the AM class will push it through to the limit in order to try and move himself a bit further up the field and get some valuable points in the AM championship, as we are now completing the gridding process. And it is going to be one red light very shortly. It should appear on our screen. 1 red light, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's lights out and away we go for race number 2 here at Bathurst. We see Glenn Humberstone gets a good start here and stays on that inside line as they go charging down towards turn number 1. Looking a bit further back, we can already see Liam McNee gaining some places versus Mikey Doble. But Humberstone makes his way through turn at number 1 as all of our drivers come roaring on down into the opening corner. And this time, look at this, we've got 2 wide already as they make the way up the mountain straight. They come out of Hell's Corner and now they're going up the mountain. And it is the case that Jamie Dory and Lee Horne already batting, and Ben Bennyworth as well, who's out of the toe here and out of luck as they go charging up towards turn number 2. And I think if you're Bennyworth right now, you'll be kicking yourself for the fact you just don't have the toe. You've got to pray on that inside line. You just hook the brakes up nicely as they come into the braking zone. It's Jamie Dory who goes to the move versus Humberstone. He gets it here, does the pro drivers. They come on through it. The Prime gives way, and a bit further back we've got contact, and I believe that is Lewis Kent being turned there. And we've also got multiple more cars as they come through Quarry. Everybody seems to have navigated mostly safely, but it is Lewis Kent, also Jeff Perkins. Jeff Perkins jumping to the pits immediately. I think that was a collapsed suspension, and as they make the way up and across the mountain, they all start to fall into line. But Jamie Dory, with an absolutely sensational start, is now the head of the pack here, with Glenn Humberstone tucked in behind and Lee Horne. And then also look at that, Liam McNee up to P9 already. He has gained 3 places on this open lap, and he is absolutely on the charge. And well, if we're wondering about the Davis on tonight, whether he deserves to be in the pro class or not, I think he's already saying he should be in the pro class. And then Summers, we've got 3 wide and cars coming off at McPhillamy Park, and as they come over Skyline, everybody brings it back together. That was Mcnee and Clibbons both running wide there and just about keeping it together. So you can see Deegan Fairclough just tucked in, and as they all make the way out to the depot right now, my goodness, I think Mcnee getting a bit wrong there and actually getting caught up as well. The Excite Machines makes it too wide in down into Forest Elbow here, and well, they are all getting aggressive early as we've got the Excite Racer Machine that Adam Delmont spun, and also another Excite Machine into the wall there, and well, that's Nick Clibbins. Well, that's not, well, that's Simtech Racing Gold. My apologies, getting the colours mixed up, but my goodness, Alex, what a start to this race.
Not good start for the Excite drivers at all. Excite in collaboration with Simtech, I think that is, from Nick Clibbins there. A bad start to their race indeed, but it was so close going over the mountain from all of those drivers amongst the top half of the field. Oh, and back there, Ollie Peters out, breaks himself, and he has to straight line the chicane. He'll lose a lot of places here, and he hits the wall. Whoa. That'll be it for Ollie Peters.
Well, he seems to have just got the car back under momentum here, but that's going to drop him all the way down the order. Everybody's going to come through like a ravenous pack of wolves here, and we can see Paul Scott going for a move on Sam Smith there in towards the final corner. He couldn't quite find into Murray's corner. He's had to back out. He's lost so much momentum by going high on the apex curve. And one of the things we haven't talked about here, you do not want to hit the apex curves of a lot of these corners for the simple reason they are so high compared to the road surface. You hit one of those in an MX-5, it's almost as if you're being bounced into the stratosphere, and it's an uncomfortable feeling. The suspension rods of these cars are not made to take that kind of pounding too many times, and that is going to cost lap time. But Mcnee right now continuing to move up the field here after the opening lap, and right now battling with what is Adam Morgan and Deegan Fairclough and Pete Newman as well. And you can see that Adam Morgan just trying to find his way up the inside of Pete Newman, and Newman trying to go all the way around the outside here with the double toe, and they come through side by side through Quarry, and it looks as though Pete Newman's just got himself still alongside as they make their way into the cut-in. But I think Newman's realised he needs to back out. He's only costing himself and Morgan time in chasing after the top 6 as they make their way through. Mikey Doble cuts on the inside there versus what was John Burnham, as Burnham gave him the space on the inside, and Doble gains another position here, and Mikey Doble actually having a bit of a weaker start compared to what we perhaps would have seen from him, as meanwhile Mcnee continues the charge, and it looks like the Pfizer machine there of what is Henry just getting it a little bit wrong, coming over the brow of the crest there.
Yeah, a lot of these cars who finished towards the top end of the field in race 1 are really filtering through now. McNeely and Fairclough are 2 of the drivers in the Legends Cup last season that were able to get through the field very quickly indeed, and we're seeing it here, 7 and 8 places gained respectively so far in this race as they set their sights on the cars ahead. Fairclough does get a bad exit. He hits the wall very hard through the chicane. Oh, and there's another incident back here as well. We heard it, and I think it was Ben Williams hitting into the wall there. But a lot of drivers seem to be keeping going. There's a lot of drivers really risking it with the wall tonight. But at the front, it is Jamie Dory leading the way. He won, I think it was race 2 last time out at Daytona. I might be wrong about that. It might be Montreal he won. But Lee Horne there behind him as well. The 2 next-gen cars working together here. They know that the likes of McNeely, Fairclough Adam Morgan, they're going to be coming. They've got to try and get away as quickly as possible, as we see Mcnee already make progress. He's up past Ben Bennyworth. Oh, as he runs wide coming out of the chicane there. Might that be a slowdown? It might just be a 1x. Oh, and there's also a battle back here. Maurice Henry runs wide coming out of the chicane. He's definitely no short of drama today. He's definitely getting his elbows out and getting involved in everything here as he's side by side with Pete Newman going into the final corner. Bumps it across the curb, and Adam Morgan spins it. Adam Morgan spins it coming out the final corner, and he just about gets it going again, but he might have a little bit of damage on that rear end. But that was a huge spin from Adam Morgan.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Alex, I thought at that point Adam Morgan had decided to try and park the car between the two sets of tyre barriers, because watch this, if you want perfect parking and getting it wrong, and to be fair, 10 out of 10 for style points, to lose in the rear end of the car as he came off the curb, and then the car just spinning between the barriers almost perfectly. I thought he was going to go to the escape road there, but joking aside and whatnot, with his misfortune, it is the case multiple drivers gaining places now as they go on to another lap. Definitely, as you say, everybody getting their elbows out and really fighting for these positions, and we're not even halfway into this race, and we have seen multiple drivers drop by the wayside on multiple crumpled MX-5s as they now make the way onto another lap. And you can see Pete Newman here in P7 battling with Maurice Henry and Sam Smith, and Smith trying to go round the outside into the cut-in. Very brave this from Smith to go round the outside into a tape-in apex as they make their way through the corners. And now as they come through 5 and 6 here, they make the way up through what is the Breeze chicane, and we can see Paul Scott, what is chasing after Tom Delaney in the battle for the lead of the AM class. Really is all kicking off with Lee Holmes, Wayne Douglas and Clark all tucked in behind there. But looking back up towards the front, you can see Liam Mcnee really coming through this field like a knife through hot butter as he now goes charging over Skyline after what is Horne and Dory. Now what do Lee Horne and Jamie Dory do it to this point? Do they apply a little bit of team orders and get Lee Horne to try and hold what is Mcnee behind? Or is it the case that they just simply say, you know what, if he's going to come on through, well, that's absolutely fine, we'll just take the podium places? What would you do in that situation, Alex?
Drive as fast as I can, really. That's all you can do when you're against an opponent like this. You've got to sort of deal with the fact that the inevitable might happen, that the very, very fast driver is going to come past. But as soon as they do, you've got to get onto the back of them, latch onto them like a tow bar onto the back of that MX-5, as he's already going for the move and trying to guard the inside. There is Jamie Dory. He takes to the other side of the track. Mcnee is through at the moment with his nose ahead. Can the next gen cars work together to stay ahead? No, they can't. Mcnee has made it through. Into first place he goes. 2 places on 1 straight there. He gets the job done, but these cars, as I mentioned just a moment ago, these drivers have got to latch on to the back here. They've got to try and keep up with him to try and take the position back on the next long straight, which is coming out of turn 1. Through the final corner they go. Mcnee gets a good run through the corner, better than the other cars around. And we've also got Deegan Fairclough to look out for as well. He, like Mcnee, is very good at coming through the field. He will eventually join this battle, but he's going to want to keep up with this pack here as he takes a lunging move on the inside of Glenn Humberston here, trying to hang on to the back of this pack that is headed by one of his rivals, Mcnee. We've also got a car out of the pits there that is leading this car along, that is leading Mcnee along. It's giving him a good slipstream, which is absolutely not beneficial for Jamie Dory, and that's the number 9.
That's Callum Jenkins. He's just come out the pits. He had a major moment earlier on where he had to get significant repair work to the car, and he's moved out the way. I don't think he wants to be right there on the inside of turn 2 right now, as everybody has to go round him. And you can see in the rear of the picture there, Glenn Humberstone almost going into the wall from the amount of exit curb he had to take in order to run that outside line as they come up into the cutting once again. But as you say, Alex, this right now, all of them chasing after Mcnee, who just seems to be on another level. Yeah,
absolutely. And I don't know and wonder what the record is for the fastest driver to get from reverse grid 12th to first. I don't know what the quickest time that is, but 8.5 minutes, or 8 minutes should it be, because that's when he actually made the move, is fairly quick. Just over half of the race, and he's already into first place from 12th position. Job well done so far from Mcnee. But Jamie Dory is a pro category driver as well. He's going to want to keep up with Mcnee. He's going to want to try and fight back. This part of the track is crucial for Jamie Dory. He's got to keep up with Mcnee if he wants a chance to keep up and try and move on the main straight here as we're about to approach it. Around the left-hander here through the dip, and I think Jamie Dory might be too far back here, Paul. I don't know what you think, but this seems like Mcnee, a second clear, has done very, very well to get himself in this position now.
Indeed, I think what Jamie Dory's just got to do at this point really is just focus on what he can do. Because he's had a brilliant start to this race, there's no doubt about that. He's lost the lead, but he won't be worried too much about that, I think, when all is concealed. Though naturally, as a racing driver, you want to be the winner first and foremost. But what I think now he'll be focusing more on, as we see Deegan Fairclough chasing after Lee Horne just behind, is he'll be looking to try and pull enough of a gap out on his teammate Lee Horne, who gets a very slow run there through the chase. In fact, Deegan Fairclough immediately giving him a little bit of a push along, a little bit of a hurry along, and you're going to see Lee Horne's going to go defensive here into the final corner as they come into Murray's, and Fairclough just goes around the outside. Lee Horne's got no speed coming into that corner. They both hit the apex curve there, and as they make their way through, David Whitehouse has jumped to the pits, and Craig Cockrell as well. They've both come on in. Now, I'm not sure if there's been an instant between the two of them, but it has been a bad day. Well, here they come and making their way down. It was contacting in. I think Whitehouse just tapping the apex of what was turn number 20, and that unsettled the car. He mated himself with the tyre barrier, and Craig Cockrell was sent into the concrete on the left-hand side, and that was very unfortunate, as we can see both drivers coming on through, and it looks as though Cockrell are just coming down a lot of speed and being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, it's a very tricky one to assess, that incident we've just seen, but it ultimately ends both of their races as not what they wanted indeed. But yeah, there's another race to go for those drivers. They can get themselves back in the car, ready for the next race, of course, to make up some points. But the demise of David Whitehouse here sees the benefit of Tom Delaney here. We did say he has a lot of ground to make up in this AM category in the championship, and the first place right here, right now in the race is very good for him indeed, for his championship hopes. Lee Horne will be hoping for another Pro-Am category win in this race. He got one in race 1, and he could be looking at another here in race 2. He knows all the drivers around him are Pro category drivers, so he just needs to keep his nose out of trouble. Glenn Humberston is his closest rival, just a bit further down the road. But Lee Horne doing very well in that category indeed. But at the front it is also still a lead for McNeely. But he is not breaking away from Jamie Dory just yet. Jamie Dory's really put the hammer down. He's come from the back of the grid at the start of race 1 to put himself in this position of a potential podium right here, right now in this race. And he has got to really work hard here, as McNeely was very, very loose coming out of the corner there. And he did take a little bit of a brush with the wall there. That might well drop his momentum on this straight here, but ultimately Dory is not close enough to make a move, but he might be able to get closer to McNeely to try and move elsewhere on the track, Paul.
Indeed, I think right now what Jamie Dory's got to do, he's got to be ever present in terms of he's always got to be within at least a second of McNeely, because if he starts to fall back beyond a second, he will take the pressure away in terms of the pressure he can exert on McNeely, and that's what you want as Jamie Dory right now. You're not as fast as the guy in front of you. That's the definite thing you know, but if you're there, then McNeely is more likely to be looking in his rear view mirror, or Turkey, just as much as he is looking forward, and it only takes one mistake from the guy in front, the guy you're chasing, and it's all over. And we saw that he had a brush with the wall on the exit of Forest Elbow, turn 18. If he makes another mistake like that, could he in the end have more severe brush with the wall, and that will cost him the lead this race? As we can see there, it is the case. The white flag is now out, and Jamie Dory is the pursuer here as they make the way out of Hell's Corner and onto the mountain straight. And behind me, Deegan Fairclough, the best part of 3.4 seconds back, and I don't think he's going to be closed up anytime soon, as really is a showdown now between McNeely and Dory for the overall win in this race as they make the way up. And you can see McNeely doing these little weaves every so often, which he is permitted to do. One weave on the straight is fine, as long as there's not a driver along his inside or outside. But as they make the way up into the braking zone for Quarry Corner turn 2 right now, it is the case. We can see he just goes a little bit wide of apex there. Jamie Dory, meanwhile, clapping the apex with the front right-hand tyre. Both drivers getting the poor run, but it is the case that McNeely gets the better run out of the two of them as they now make the way up into the cutting. And really, as they press on, one thing we haven't talked about as much as perhaps we should have, Pete Newman is up into P4. He has been climbing his way on through the order, and he's ahead of Lee Horne right now. I think it's the case that Lee Horne is just settling for that win in the Pro-Am class. He's not too bothered by where he finishes overall, whereas Pete Newman is on a charge after Deegan Fairclough, and he has come a long way as Pete Newman in the very unhappy looking front end of his Mazda MX-5. It looks like it's been through the walls and then some as they make their way up towards McPhillamy here, and he's going to look for the move into turn 10. This is very brave stuff. You don't overtake there, and that's why, because there's contact, and it sends Deegan Fairclough out onto the gravel, and well, that could have been close to tears for Deegan Fairclough, who almost saw a mate with the wall as they make the way down now through into the dipper. And I think it is the case that Pete Newman will be thinking to himself immediately, I should have waited to the straight, because now the stewards will be taking a look at that one. As you can see, Fairclough immediately going on the offensive as they come down to Forest Elbow, and Lee Horne staying well wide. He does not want to be involved in this. He does not want to see Fairclough coming through and taking him with him down into the corners. Meanwhile, looking further up towards the leaders right now is Jamie Dory, who's 8/10 of a second back off of McNee, not closing enough, as I think going slow along there, I think that's Craig Cockrell, after all the damage he's been through over the course of this race in the number 11 machine. Jamie Dory continuing that pursuit as they make their way then into the chase chicane here. I think McNee has got this done unless he makes a mistake, but he's been absolutely flawless. -1 brush with all, and as they make their way now down towards Murray's Corner, the checkered flag will begin to wave very shortly as Barry, our flag waver, gets the flag on out. But as they make their way through the final corner, it's going to be 2 out of 2 for Liam McNee as he crosses the line, the winner ahead of Jamie Dory, and it will be Pete Newman who in the end makes it P3, but there was a big question mark over that P3 with the contact with Deegan Fairclough, who came home P4. Lee Horne, credit to him, the winner in the prime class there, P5 overall, ahead of Ben Bennyworth, Maurice Henry, and Mikey Doble, Glenn Humberstone, Sam Smith, John Burnham, and then P12, and the winner in the AM class, Tom Delaney in the 555 machine, the SVP and Motorsport with Sunday Drivers driver, doing it a very justified job there, P12, and will Paul Scott coming home P2 in the AM class, P13, Adam Delmont and Lee Holmes completing our top 15. But what a race, Alex, and well, we were wondering if there was going to be even more action compared to the opening race, and I think we got more than what we asked for.
Oh, certainly, certainly. And we're going to have a reverse grid of 27 cars, the 27 finishes in this race. So it's going to be very exciting to watch in this next race. We're seeing drivers get through the pack so well. Deegan Fairclough, one of them. Liam McNeely, he's just dominated tonight. We haven't seen this domination all season from one driver, and he just comes along and just whoops everyone on such a difficult track as well. Pole position, race 1 win, and a race 2 win, but can he get from 27th to the top spot in the next race? We'll have to find out. But just before we head over to race 3, let's take another look. I'm just going to try and find it, but that overtake, shall we say, from Pete Newman on Deegan Fairclough, and Fairclough did very well to try and fight back. I'm just trying to find said incident in that race. There we go. We found it here. Let's see if we can see it here. There we go. We didn't get much of it, granted, but yeah, let's take a look at it from a little bit further back, see how it elevates into this. So heading up the hill here, Paul, into the right and then the left. Pete Newman has now started a good slipstream on Fairclough, and Fairclough has already gone to the inside here. What about the rest of this instant here?
As they then come through turn number 9, and now coming in 10, you can see Pete Newman's got the overspeed, but this is where it's so difficult. You see Fairclough turns in because he's not expecting Newman to go for a move in perhaps one of the most dangerous corners to go side by side through. And what it meant was, as he tried to turn in, Newman was there. He would have had it called out to him, of course, by his crew chief. But now, as we see it again, watch the overspeed he does pick up in. And to be fair, Newman would have thought that it would have been on the cards, and he was probably expecting Fairclough to simply back out and let it go. But when you're coming across here, it is the case that the lead driver really holds that prerogative, and as they now make their way on through, as we get the slowdown, watch how Newman's going to start to pull the car. He feels as though he's got the overspeed, but then as they're now making their way over the bump, and we can't see it from this camera angle, remember there is a rise in the road here as they make the way down to left-hander. So as Newman's going to come on in, remember he's gone over the rise, he's dropping down, so he's got to feel the car move out to the outside of the circuit. And with Deegan Fairclough there, who's already turned in, because you've got to turn in early on that outside line to get the best possible line. Well, Newman was there, and well, the stewards are going to be taking a look at that one. I'm not going to say which way it should go in the eyes of stewards, they're the ones who do, but I do think that from Pete Newman's perspective, if he just waited until they came out of Forest Sailboat and down onto the Conrod Straight, I think Newman would have had plenty of time to go for the move. Of course, Fairclough would have had a much easier time of defending, but it's a case, I think Newman just simply got a little bit impatient there when he didn't really need to go for it. And to be fair to Fairclough, watching this come back immediately, it's a case like a bull to a matador, just charging after Newman. You can feel it radiating off the car. Fairclough not wanting to let that go and going chasing after him. And to be fair, well, after that, I would be, well, if I was in Fairclough's position, I'd be thinking, right, I'm just going to bring the car home. I've been through the wars now, but he's clearly got other ideas, Alex.
You could see going down the hill straight after that incident between him and Newman, he was just throwing the car around, trying to make it go as quick as he can down that mountain, and with the mirror hanging off the left side of his car, and a big lunge here going into the chicane to try and get Newman back. Fairclough is a very, very entertaining driver indeed. There's almost a hint of Colin McRae about him, but if Colin McRae transferred his skills into racing, of course, circuit racing. But yeah, a very decent comeback. Didn't materialise into a podium for Fairclough, which is what he wanted. But Pete Newman got the podium, which is certainly what he wanted. And a good night's racing so far for Newman in terms of results. Very, very good results indeed. One of the top scorers of the field so far. But we're going to round off this race 2 with the results of race 2. Liam McNeely takes the win from Jamie Dory, with Pete Newman in 3rd place, Stephen Fairclough in 4th position. Excuse me. Pro-Am category winner, but 5th overall for Lee Horne, with Ben Bennyworth. Quiet race for him, but 6th place and a good result for him. Maurice Henry in 7th place, with Mikey Doble, a relatively quiet race for him, in 8th. Glenn Humberston in 9th, he was the pole sitter, and kept himself in the top 10 in that race for 2nd place in Pro-Am category as well. Sam Smith 10th, with John Burnham in 11th place. Tom Delaney taking the win in the AM category, just ahead of Paul Scott in 13th position. In 14th position, Adam Delmont of Excite iRacing, a spin on the opening lap. He recovers to 14th place. Lee Holmes in 15th, with Lewis Kent in 16th. Wayne Douglas in 17th, with George Watson in 18th. Adam Morgan, also a spin early on in the race. The brilliant parking we saw there on the pit straight there, but 19th in the end for him. Ben Williams in 20th, with 21st going to Nick Clibbans. Jay Elliott in 22nd, with Ollie Peters in 23rd. Nigel Stock 24th, Craig Cockrell 25th, David Whitehouse 26th, James Clark, who's the last of the finishers, in 27th, Callum Jenkins in 28th, Jeff Perkins 29th, and Mark Oliver 30th. They were the results of race 2 of the night. Another win for Liam McNeely. Can he make it 3 out of 3? We'll find out very shortly here on Next Gen Racing TV on Facebook and Crest Autosport TV on Twitch and YouTube. This has been the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup, round 6 at Bathurst. Race 3 coming up very shortly. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone, to Australia, New South Wales. This is Bathurst Mount Panorama circuit, and this is the 6th round of the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup. We've got the final race of the night coming up very, very shortly. A 25-minute feature race awaits us with a full reverse grid of the results from the last race. 27 cars, to be precise. And a little bit of a recap of what's going on this season in terms of the scheduling calendar. We started off all them weeks ago, over a month ago, at Silverstone National Circuit. Knock Hill was the second round of the championship, with Red Bull Ring third. The Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, aka Montreal, was round 4 of the championship, with round 5 being hosted at Daytona last week. This is the final round of the first half of the season, and what a first half of the season it has been. The second half of the season looks a little bit like this. Monza starts us off in 2 weeks from today, and it will be Snetterton 300 layout for round 8 of the championship. The Zandvoort circuit will host round 9 of the championship, with Interlagos hosting round 10 of the championship to see us into the final quarter of the championship. 2 mammoth circuits awaits us for the final round. The Long Beach Street Circuit in California for round 11 of the championship, famous for the Long Beach Grand Prix. Known very well with the IndyCar series, of course, and Formula 1 back in the day, the good old days of the 70s, but it is the home of the Mazda MX-5s that day. And then round 12 of the championship, the Nürburgring VLN, the biggest track on iRacing, will host us for the final round of the championship on the 14th of March, just under 2 months away. It'll be a 2-hour endurance with double points on offer for the drivers, so a crucial round indeed for the drivers. But today is Bathurst, and it's the final race of the first half of the season. Mikey Doble has been leading the way in the championship. It's been a relatively quiet night for him, but someone who hasn't been quiet tonight, Paul, it's been Liam McNeely.
Oh, indeed, Liam McNee, who on his debut, he took pole position in qualifying. He took the win from start to finish in race number 1, and he made his way from P12 into the lead and took the win in race number 2. But now the big question confronts him, which is he will have to come from the back of a 27-car reverse grid and try to take the win. Can he make it 3 out of 3? Can he make it the perfect evening? Well, place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. I say he could do it, and he's got 25 minutes to do in race number 3. What do you say, Alex?
Well, 25 minutes, he's got to average more than 1 place per lap, which on a track like this is possible, but a lot of dramas in the race could happen. It's a very, very tricky part of the grid to be on. Of course, the drivers don't qualify necessarily as good in race 1. They're caught up in that kerfuffle at the back there for race 1 and maybe even race 2. Now's the chance for equally for them to show what they might be made of on this track at the front, get a good start, get a good advantage at the front, and get themselves some good points in this race. But Liam McNeely, let's see how he gets on. It's going to be quite the test for him in this race. Can he make it 3 out of 3? I don't think we did get a 3 out of 3 from the Legends Cup the last 2 seasons, but we'll see if it happens tonight in these MX-5s. We're about to get racing underway here for the final race of the first half of the season. It's been a great first half of the season. I don't think there's been a single race where it hasn't been exciting or filled with its source of drama. But it's not going to end here. We've still got plenty of races to go this season, and including this one, we're about to start very, very shortly. So it is James Clark on the front row of the grid with David Whitehouse alongside him in second position. Third place will go to Craig Cockrell and Nigel Stock on the second row there. Ollie Peters and Jay Elliott on the third row, with the fourth row taken up by Nick Clibbins and Ben Williams. Fifth row taken up by our BTCC resident Adam Morgan and George Watson alongside him. Wayne Douglas in 11th with Lewis Kent lining up alongside on the 6th row. 7th row taken up by Lee Holmes and Adam Delmont. Paul Scott and Tom Delaney, the 2 AM drivers first and second in the previous race, take up the 8th row of the grid, with John Burnham and Sam Smith taking up the 9th row for 17th and 18th. Rounding off the top 20 on the grid here, Glenn Humston in 19th and Mikey Doble in 20th. I'm going to have to be cut short as we're all gridded up and ready to go here at Bathurst for the final race of the night. It is James Clark at the front, David Whitehouse alongside, and away we go. It looked like a very good start from Craig Cockrell in the third place car there, but away we go, and it is actually a good start from James Clark. Into the first corner we go, and an early move here from Ollie Peters on the inside of Nigel Stock here. Through turn one we go, up the hill we go. These drivers at the front here are relatively clean at the moment, but there's a big incident in the middle there. That is Wayne Douglas, and I think that is George Watson as well. They both spin each other into the wall there, and we're going to quick replay of that very shortly, but two very damaged cars at the start of this 25-minute race here is far from ideal for them, but the race carries on. Here we go, Dave Whitehouse to the inside of James Clark. Through he goes, the Duck Song car there gets through into the lead. On, there's a big incident in turn two there. It's Ollie Peters and Nigel Stock. Into the wall they go, and it's race potentially over for them two already. To the back of the grid they go already. But we carry on. To the top of the hill we go. Whitehouse leads from Clark. Cockrell is in second position. He is fighting James Clark for position in category. And they're already some distance, 2.5 seconds ahead of fourth place Ben Williams at the moment here, Paul. It's been an interesting start to this race indeed.
Oh, most definitely, Alex. And really, one of the most telling things, looking away from the instance for a moment, David Whitehouse making that move for the lead going into turn number 2. And the Ducks on machine really is the case. Number 29 driver doing a fantastic job of getting into the lead this race. And you can see just a little bit of the body language in the car of Clark. He's not happy with the fact he's lost the lead so early on, because Craig Cockrell has come out very rapidly behind. And now Clark is having to literally attach himself to the back of Whitehouse's car. He wants to get back into the lead this race, because right now, this top three, with the fact we saw the incident involving the likes of Ollie Peters and Nigel Stock going into turn 2, that's enabled the top three to make a bit of space to the rest of the field, with Ben Williams in P4 right now, really just simply trying to keep it together. As we can see, there is the case. Number 22 machine of what is Watson getting a bit wrong, coming out of Skyline into the dipper, and Ollie Peters gaining the position, but it has not been a good start for a number of drivers, 5 drivers in particular in an instance, and that's Paul Scott, I believe, into the wall there on the exit for his elbow, but looking away from that, and now you can see him just trying to get the car back under control, and well, hitting the wall again here, trying to stay out of the way of everyone. I think we've got quite the battle happening down on what is the Conrad Straight, and as they make their way down towards the chase, you can see it's the case that John Burnham here in the Alpine liveried machine as they make their way down. Luke Mcnee coming on through as well. Here's Mcnee's already up into P20, and he looks at a potential move here versus Pete Newman. He's going to go on the inside. He does it late on the brakes, but he goes very deep, and this is the one time Mcnee does not get the car stopped in time, and Jamie Dory has to take evasive action as Mcnee drifted back onto the circuit with his momentum. That is the case, they all make it through, but it has been a very dramatic opening lap to this race, and it is Clark back into the lead. It's a case that Cockrell and Clark managed to find their way past Whitehouse in the run down towards the chase, and meanwhile behind them we can see Adam Delmont making a move versus his teammates. They come through the opening corner, the 2X racing machine swap places. Sam Smith gets it horrifically wrong and exit and spins the rear of the car, and the Simtech racing driver, well, it has not been his night, Alex. It's just never gone his way here at Bathurst.
No, it hasn't. He's just been involved in something in every race. It hasn't been a good night for Sam Smith indeed. He gets it going again with no damage, but he's a long way back from the pack. A miracle needs to save him here, but someone who's doing very, very well here, Adam Morgan, first, should I say, for the pro category drivers. 6 places gained in this early part of the race. He was involved in race 1 for that battle at the front, and he's hurtling his way towards the top spot here. He's got 2 Pro-Am cars just ahead. David Whitehouse behind in the AM category. It's one of those situations again for David Whitehouse where he's got no other fellow category drivers around him. Oh, and there's an incident further down in the field. Deegan Fairclough is involved in an incident with Jay Elliott. I think we're going to replay of this, see what happens, but he's waiting for other drivers to clear out the way so he can turn around. Here goes Fairclough into the hairpin.
Following through, it looks as though the driver in front had a really bad round. Fairclough looking up the inside and taking the 2 of them to the wall in the end. I think that was very adventurous to go for a move on the exit of the cutting. Again, it's a case, it looks like it's too wide there, but there's not enough room to really go for a move, and it just takes a small tap. And whilst you can't see it from the camera there, the way the road surface is angled, a car on the inside, if he taps what is the inside panel of the car on the outside, they're both going into the wall. There's no way that's not going to happen, and both of them now seeing their races down the drain. As meanwhile, David Whitehouse in P4 right now in that uncomfortable position where he's got all the pros trying to come on through here. I think it is the case that Whitehouse just trying to stay out of trouble because he's seen trouble in the earlier races, and now he does not want trouble to come to him. And what could be, I mean, we're only 5 minutes into this by the time he gets to the end of the run down the corner straight, but this could be a simple cruise to victory given the fact that Tom Delaney, P2 of the AM class, is all the way down in P16.
Yeah, exactly. It's what I was trying to explain before we had to cut away to Fairclough's incident with Jay Elliott. But Whitehouse here is in another predicament where, like at Daytona Race 3, where he was involved in a lot of battling with the Pro and Pro-Am category drivers, and he was just trying to get stuck in and just have some fun, which he was doing. He was doing very well, but he has to keep his race clean at the same time. He has to stay safe from these drivers that are going to want to get rid of him very quickly so they can get on with their own races. He defends the inside, contending for position here with Nick Clemens and Lee Holmes. Into turn 1 we go, a bit wide there from Nick Clemens. It might allow Holmes to get a good run on him, but it's still James Clark who leads at the top here, and Adam Morgan is up into second position. A big opportunity here for Adam Morgan. I don't think he's won a race yet this season, and he was part of that crew at the top of the grid in race 1. Very quick indeed, and he might be able to get himself a decent result here.
Well, he's trying to go around the out. Well, he's trying to go through the inside. I was going to say Cockrell's going to try and go around the outside. Then Adam Morgan will doing a very good job and really pushing on right now as they make their way up into turn 3. And as they come forward, the assistant motorsport driver here just keeping it smooth. He's got time to hunt down Clark. And well, Nick Clemens has come through into P4, the second place pro driver in this race so far, as they make their way through turn 5 and up into 6, 7 very shortly. But of course, now Clemens has to find a way past Cockrell. He's got to do it in a way which is not going to cost him a huge amount of time, because whilst he's got a lot of time to play with, Adam Morgan just simply needs a little bit of time to disappear off up the road, and that could be a very hard advantage to close back down. But as they all make their way through McPhillamy Park right now, it is the case that Morgan is trying to get close to the back of Clark. I think he's trying to set up a move for the run down the Conrod Straight, and he's doing that very well right now to stay very close. But you can see once again Cockrell coming back, and Clibbens really coming down hard on the brakes there and the run into the dipper. I think Clibbens recognises he needs to stay close to these guys. And there's meanwhile another instant further down between Williams and Lewis Kent, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Lewis Kent with a very wounded Mazda there, and he reverts to the pit straight away, and we're trying to get up to the replay. We couldn't quite get there. It did involve him and Ben Williams. Let's take a look at that instant here. At the top of the hill, about to descend into the chicane. And it's just the case that Ben Williams on the left clearly had no idea Lewis Kent was on his right. And that was it. Just turned in, thinking he could turn into the corner, focusing on the car ahead. Lewis Kent a passenger in there. He had all rights to get up the inside there, certainly, Paul. But yeah, it's just an instant that's just gone away from these drivers. Ended their race, unfortunately.
Most definitely. And for those wondering, why did we then see Lewis Kent come roaring across the circuit? Indeed, also Ben Williams come across the circuit at that point. It's simply when you're coming downhill out of Skyline, with that side-by-side contact and the amount of momentum those cars were carrying, they can slam on the anchors, i.e. on the brakes, but those cars are literally just going to come down the hill. It's that momentum, and that's why Lewis Kent, you saw, he literally had to cut his way across the dipper and try to avoid contact Lee Horne. And be fair, Lee Horne there almost saw his race ended, and he was very, very wise to take the evasive action he did. But we come back, of course, to the live racing right now, and Liam Mcnee already up into P9. Well, Alex, I think we're saying he had to gain more than one place to lap. Well, it's the case he's only 8 minutes into this race now, onto lap number 4, and well, he has siphoned his way 18 places up the field, and our greatest gainer since the start of this race. He is on a charge.
Yeah, 18 places gained. 1 place a minute, I was meant to say earlier, but yeah, this is a very, very good start indeed. He's pulling along Pete Newman. They're catching up towards Mikey Doble and Maurice Henry, who until not too long ago were the biggest gainers of the field. Mikey Doble is usually the man we see gaining the most places throughout the night. It's the likes of him and Fairclough and Jamie Dory who are the biggest gainers in these reverse grid races, but McNeely leading the way at the moment in that, and he is gaining rapidly towards the 2 drivers ahead of Henry and Doble. But towards the front, Adam Morgan is into the lead of this race. We'll see if we can get a quick replay of how that happened, because I don't think we saw it. The pass for the move on James Clark here, and it is at the end of the straight on the previous lap here, and it's just a classic move here at Bathurst. Yeah, go for it.
I was going to say, indeed, it is a classic, but watch here as well. Look at Craig Cockrell coming up behind with a lot of momentum. In fact, he had to back out there, interestingly enough, and meanwhile, there was the case. The Excite machine really took advantage, and Clark, I don't think he knew where to put the car. I think he really felt out of place, and then Craig Cockrell tapped the back of him, and the two of them went racing once again. But it almost as if Clark sort of thought halfway into the braking zone, where am I meant to be here? And that is how Clibbens and Holmes really came on through. Not to say Clark made a mistake or anything. I think he was just daunted at that moment. But now we are seeing the 3 pros up front racing for lead with Adam Morgan, as you say, Alex, leading. But now they seem to be going side by side once again.
Nick Clibbens makes a move to the outside of Adam Morgan. He has to try and hang on to the inside here. Outbreak going into the chicane here, but Clibbens guards the inside very, very well, and it actually helps through Lee Holmes as well in the 88 Tech car Into second place he goes. A relatively quiet night for him, but this might be able to make up some good championship points for himself. Third in the championship coming into tonight. This will help him certainly. Adam Morgan, who thought towards the start of this race might be able to get himself to the front and get himself sailing home in that top spot. But this is the Next Gen Racing MX-5. No win in this series is easy, and he has got to fight for this. Third place for him at the moment. One of my favourite BTCC drivers on the grid at the moment. Let's see what he can do in this top three here. He is pulling in Adam Delmont behind. Almost what I consider a veteran on in the MX-5s on iRacing. He's been racing for a very long time. Very talented indeed. Second in the championship in this championship coming into tonight as well. We've got a battle here at the top. The top two, Lee Holmes versus Nick Clibbins, and Lee Holmes makes it done very, very quickly indeed. And Adam Morgan took to the inside of Clibbins, but couldn't quite make it. Holmes into the lead though, and up the hill he goes. He'll lead them all down the hill, presumably if he can stay in front. And he's actually breaking away just a tiny bit from Clibbins with a good exit from turn 2. Into the hairpin they go here, and up the hill towards the top of the mountain they go. And this is crucial for Holmes. He needs a good run through here. He's got himself to the top. He has to try and break away from this crowd now, Paul.
He does, and one thing that also to notice that Delmont has got ahead of Morgan, with Morgan hitting the apex curve of turn 2 very hard for his front wheel. He actually lifted the front of the car up, and that's why he had to back off, and Delmont has now gained, and you'll see it here, the fact that you can just see how slowly Morgan is going because he's had to settle the car down, and Delmont's just come on through. Now, why is this important, and why is this squabbling so important? Well, if you look at your time screens on the left-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, you'll notice that Pete Newman and Liam Mcnee are exchanging emails and places right now for P7, but at the same time as well, it's the case they are inching ever closer to the top 6. Only moments ago, well, they were the best part of about 6 to 7 seconds away. Now they're only 3.5 seconds away, and I really think that now Lee Holmes has got the duty, if he wants to try and carry this one to the finish line, he's got to simply just put his foot to the metal and try to break away. But as you say, Alex, it's a case that in these machines it's never easy, and no win comes without a huge amount of battling. We're going to see it once again, as we can see now Nick Clibbins going for the move here. It's the drag race down Conrad. They go over the rise, and as they come down towards the chase very shortly, into the right hand kink they come. You see Adam Delmont staying in very tight to the back of Nick Clibbins here, trying to essentially get himself nicely up the inside. He's going to outbrake Lee Holmes into the braking zone, and Clibbins given a bit of a breather here, but you can see Lee Holmes in return able to keep it there on the inside, sorry, the outside to inside. And now look at this, Adam Morgan coming on through. He's had the momentum behind them. Clark and Cockrell battling for the lead of the Pro-Am class. Let's not forget them in their little battle in P5 overall, P1 in Pro-Am, and as they make the way out of the final corner and onto another lap, we reach the halfway point of this race, and well, they are getting closer and closer, are the drivers behind, as they make the way into turn number 1, absolutely charging on through. But right now I think it's one of those situations whereby I think Mcnee and also Henry and Doble all at this point all batting over that P7 position, and perhaps taking some time out of their race in that pursuit of the top 6. The top 6 are still well, in fact they've got a little bit further away, 3.7 seconds away, and we can see, we're looking back from Liam Mcnee here, he has got Maurice Henry giving him a little bit of a tap on the rear end there, a little bit of a bump draft on the run up the mountain straight. And behind it's Mikey Doble and Pete Newman just watching on, and even further back there, although we can't quite see it, we can see Lee Horne battling with Tom Delaney, and Tom Delaney, the leader of the AM class here, as he's going to go around the outside Lee Horne into turn 2. This is going to be very brave stuff. They give one over the road, and you can see Lee Horne really ripping himself onto the apex curve, costing him the speed, but in return giving Delaney the space, and Delaney makes the move there for P11 as Lee Horne looks the inside into 3, but I don't think Lee Horne's got the momentum to go for it. This is more a defensive posture, and as they come into the cut-in, that is, I believe that's Sam Smith looking for the move there on Bennyworth. He can't quite find it, and as they now make their way through, Jamie Dory makes it a pass instead. Dory just waiting for the opportunity as they come on through. Well, my goodness, it's battling up and down the field. Wherever you look, Alex, it looks like everybody right now reveling in the racing.
Yeah, there's lots of little pockets of racing going on here, including this top 6 here. All of them separated by less than half a second, headed by Clibbins at the moment. Holmes in second, Delmont third, who got himself ahead of Morgan just a moment ago. We saw Delmont here battling with one of his championship rivals. He's got Mikey Doble down in 9th place. He's got Holmes ahead of him. He needs to make up points that he lost in race 1 to Mikey Doble. He needs to get these positions fast and to keep them as well. But there's a long way to go in this race. A long way to go on this track here, down this back straight here. Let's see if Delmont can make a move quite yet, or is he going to hold it off towards the end of the race? out of the slipstream goes Lee Holmes. Adam Delmont is going to follow him through, and Nick Clibbins is a sitting duck here, down into third place, might even drop to fourth place here with Adam Morgan on his inside. But it's Delmont versus Lee Holmes here. Delmont goes wide coming out of the chicane there, and Lee Holmes took a little bit of the inside curb and it slowed his momentum, but he's able to get it back with Delmont running wide. Into the final corner we go. Morgan is pushing Holmes along, and into the final corner we go. Holmes is still to the inside, but Delmont, a very good run around the outside there, gets it back in front. Into the lead he goes. Delmont leads this race, second in the championship coming into tonight, and he leads this race very crucially indeed. Adam Morgan back into third place as well. Very important for him. He's got to pick off one place at a time to try and make his way back up into that top spot that he held not too long ago. But with all that battling just then from all these drivers, look how much closer Liam McNeely is getting to this front pack here, Paul.
Indeed, and now with the leaders battling once again up the mountain straight and into turn number 2. This is the battling which they're only now 16 minutes into this race. They've got 9 more minutes to go, and they're really starting to kick off as if it's the final couple laps. And Adam Morgan once again carrying a lot of momentum through 2. He's going to look up the inside into 3 here. I don't think Adam Morgan's going to be able to go for the lead unless he fully commits under braking, but they all just about fall back into a line there. And Lee Holmes with a little bit of oversteer on the exit of the cutting as they make their way through 5 and up into 6, 7 very shortly. But right now the gloves are off between all 6 of these drivers. And Liam McNeely is now 7/10 off the back of Craig Cockrell. So we have now got a 7-car pack hunting this lead down. And well, it's the case, I think Maurice Henry is only 1.4 seconds back with Pete Newman and Mikey Doble behind him. So they can catch up a little bit more, which I'm sure they will come the end of this lap. Given how intense the fighting is, we are going to see 10 drivers back for the lead as they make their way over Skyline. You can see Adam Morgan having to defend versus Delmont here. He can't afford to let Delmont get ahead because otherwise he has to then rely on Delmont trying to make the move on Holmes, and that's what he doesn't want at this point in the race as they all make their way on through and down into Forest Elbow, but literally all in sequence right now as they all come down. It's fantastic to see Lumen. He looks at the move into Forest Elbow. No. Oh, goodness me.
Oh, did he need to do that? I'm not really sure. Oh, and there's an instant further back as well. Tom Delaney and Lee Horne have come together, as has Jamie Dory. It's all happened on this part of the circuit. It's all happened on this lap. Let's see if we can get a replay of going backwards up the track. Is Tom Delaney trying to pull it over, I think, so he can reverse it, but he's very lucky there. So this is the incident involving Craig Cockrell, actually, and this is the one between him and Liam McNeely, and we couldn't quite see it, but it was a little bit of netcode involved as well. We'll see if we can get another quick shot of it here. Down the hill we go. Liam McNeely will take to the inside, and the door was closing ever so slightly. There's a bit of netcode between them, but Liam McNeely gets away with it. He's able to keep going. He's still in 6th, but that ruins the race of Craig Cockrell, and it does risk a post-race penalty for McNeely. But let's move on to the incident between Delaney, Horne and Dory before we move on. Delaney at the front of the pack here. Horne and Dory following them through, and into the wall they go, and it's just nothing but collection from the other drivers here. It included Glenn Humberston as well. And that was it from those drivers. But we must resume with the action. It's still ongoing in this race with just over 6 minutes to go. It is now a 5-car pack battling for the top spot here. Liam McNeely, you could say he might have lost himself contention for that top spot now. A little bit of damage on his car as well will not be helping. But a big moment in the race, Paul.
Indeed, and looking back at it when we were analysing, one thing I noticed with McNeely, I think he got it wrong under braking, because we won't go back to it again now in terms of a replay, but the rear end of the car really slid out there as they were coming down into what is the kink before Forest Elbow, that braking zone, that downhill braking zone. I think McNeely just came in with a little bit too much of a rear loose end, and in the end he just couldn't get the car stopped. It was the case he came with so much momentum, and meanwhile with regards to Tom Delaney, that's just very unfortunate, and Lee Horne and Jamie Dory just too close to move out of the way, and that's what happens when coming out of Dipper. When one driver gets it wrong, when you've got a pack as close as we're seeing our leaders right now, when they're this close, it only takes one driver, and when the leader gets it wrong, it's either the case you're in the way or you're out of the way. There's no, you literally in the hands of the car gods here, and that is a little bit, of course, of a throw out there, and a shout out to the advertisement on the side of Adam Morgan's car. I can assure you I haven't been paid to talk about the car gods at any point. But as they come on down into Forest Elbow right now, Adam Morgan leading this race ahead of Delmont. But I think we're going to be seeing the exchange a few more times in the remaining 5 minutes. They've got Paul Scott ahead of them right now, and Adam Morgan will be praying as we see Craig Cockrell's been involved in an instant coming into the dipper, out of the dipper, and down into Forest Elbow. Now, what's happened to Craig Cockrell, Alex?
On his own here, and I think it's collected Wayne Douglas and Ollie Peters as well. So going into the chicane here, just tussles with the wall there, and he takes to the inside here. No drivers can see him around the corner here. Here comes all the other drivers. I think that was Glenn Humberstone who avoided him, and Ollie Peters who collected Craig Cockrell here. So really unfortunate for Ollie Peters. It's just a night that's gone slowly but surely worse. This night's gone on. A very good race 1, but race 2 and race 3 haven't been so good for him. But Craig Cockrell, a disappointing night for him at the end here as the battle for the top spot continues here. Lee Holmes runs wide, trying to move on Adam Delmont, and he loses a lot of momentum. He's going to lose out to James Clark and Nick Clibbins here as we head into the final 5 minutes of the race here, the final few laps, as Adam Morgan leads it. He's got a little bit of a gap from Adam Delmont. That might close by the end of the straight here, as it's a big slipstreaming period of the track for Adam Delmont here. He gains and gains and gains on the Sicily Motorsports Mazda just up ahead here. Up the hill and over the crest we go, down the hill and then up again into turn 2 we go. We've already gained quite a bit on Adam Morgan ahead. Into the corner we go, and also gaining is Nick Clibbins here in 3rd position. Up the hill we go. Don't write off also Liam McNeely back there in 6th place as well. As these cars start battling again, Liam McNeely might have a crack on this final lap for that top spot, and all these drivers might be struggling a little bit on tyre wear, as well as they've been battling intensely on a very warm track, on a very difficult track as well. Two Adams very close together. Morgan versus Delmont is Sicily Motorsport versus Excite iRacing, and over the hill we go, and we'll head down the track again, and we'll start the final lap in just over a minute's time here. And it will be battle on between these drivers. Could Nick Clibbins get himself involved? He's got to gain quite a bit as we head down the hill here. Through the chicane we go. And it is a real important part of the race here. This is where you've got to establish what position you need to be in for the final lap. The final dash down the main straight here, Paul.
Indeed, and I think right now one thing that's to know is the way that Adam Delmont is positioning himself through the corners over the mountain. He's trying to get his nose just a little bit off of the racing line, trying to intimidate Adam Morgan, trying to make him look and think that perhaps Delmont is trying to make a move when he's definitely not going for a move there, but he's just positioned himself well to be aggressive. And look at how he's come out for his elbow. Now onto Conrad here and right behind Adam Morgan, but he's going to go to the inside to outside into the chase here. And as they make the way on down at this point, side by side, they go the two Adams, and as they make the way on through turn number 20, they come down into the chase, into the braking zone for 21. You can see behind Lee Holmes and Nick Clibbins, that's still a situation where Clibbins trying to go around the outside to inside. Adam Delmont gets it done, but what about Nick Clibbins? He just about inches ahead, as it's the case that Excite make places, whereas the others do not. And as they come down into the final corner, into Murray's corner, they'll be shortly going on to the final out as Lee Holmes comes back here. And Nick Clibbins, this is what we love to see. And now look at McNeely, who's closed up right on the back as they make their way onto the final lap, Alex.
Final lap here at Bathurst, and look who has gained on this top 4 here. Liam McNee takes to the inside and he gets into 4th place past Nick Clement. 1 out of 4 done. He's got 3 ahead of him. Delmont and Adam Morgan still go at it here, but Liam McNeely has to get the move done on Lee Holmes very, very quickly if he's going to have another crack at trying to get by the cars up ahead. Something's happened a bit further back to Ollie Peters. He's dropped down the order. We'll try and get a replay of that later. But a move between the top 2 here. Morgan to the outside, passes Delmont into the corner of turn 2. Liam McNeely is into 3rd place. He's got the inside as we head up the hill here. He's got to push real hard for these next few corners to try and catch up with the 2 Adams up ahead. Into the hairpin, he gets himself ahead. Oh, and there's a bit of contact between Adam Delmont and Adam McNally, and Nick Clibbins and James Clark come together as well, going into the hairpin there. But here we go, 4 cars battling for the lead here at the top of the mountain. Here they go, over the crest they go, very tight around this part of the track. It's very difficult to go side by side with other drivers. McNeely had a chance.
It's my God. they go side by side all the way through here. This is crazy.
Indeed it is, and look at this, McNeely's going for the move for the lead. Could he make it 3 in a row? Yes, he does. He gets it into the lead on this final lap here with less than half a lap to go. Ahead he goes of Adam Delmont, but there's still a long straight to go on this track. And Adam Morgan has dropped down to 3rd place. Lee Holmes settles in 4th at the moment. But Mcnee has had a brilliant run through the middle part of this lap here. He's stretched ahead by 7/10 already. Onto the final part of the lap we go. This might be too much too little as Adam Morgan brushes against the wall to try and push it too hard out of the corner. He will not be able to keep up with Adam Delmont if he has damage on that car. But Mcnee, he has dominated tonight. Our driver of the day unconditionally, and look at the gap to the cars behind. They're just squabbling amongst themselves. Mcnee is going to be able to take this away with 3 wins on the trot and pole position. A perfect night indeed for this driver. And these drivers back here battling for this position. We'll watch this before we greet our victor for this 3rd race. Delmont leads them into the chicane, and Holmes has put himself into 3rd place ahead of Adam Morgan. But will he be able to hang on for this final corner? Into the final corner they go. Adam Morgan thinks to go left, but he's going to stick to the right, try and hang it around the outside. But it might not be enough. But we greet our victor here. 3 races on the trot. Liam McNeely wins the 3rd race here at Bathurst with a brilliant fight through the pack. 26 places gained. What a race from him. Adam Delmont takes 2nd position. Lee Holmes takes 3rd. Adam Morgan misses out on the podium for 4th position. Pete Newman, credit to him as well. 20 places gained to get himself up to 5th, with Mikey Doble in 6th position. A winner of the Pro-Am category, James Clark, comes through with the incident he had with Nick Clibbins in the end. He still comes through as Pro-Am winner in 8th place. Lee Horne takes 2nd place in category for a near perfect night in category for him. A first and a 2nd for him. And our winner of the AM category will eventually be Tom Delaney, back here in 19th overall. It's still quite a few moments before he finishes the race. But what a race from this guy here, Adam. I haven't seen anything quite like that. And I've had a lot of racing experience over the years.
Oh, it was absolutely phenomenal from Mcnee. I mean, he does still have, we do have to keep in mind, he has the Spectre hanging over him with regards to the contact going down into Forest Elbow, which was at the midpoint of the race, and the shoulds will be looking at that one. But you can't take away from what has been a phenomenal debut for Mcnee, and definitely now he is one to watch out for going into the 2nd half of this season, because it just seems as though no matter what has happened, he's found a way to come on through the ordnance. We're looking back here now, and it was the case that after it all went wrong, he then caught up to the back of the top 4, who literally made it their goal on the final lap to take every corner all the way up and down the mountain side by side if he could. And will Mcnee just capitalise? I think he saw that he could start to pick them off, and also I do think that the tyre wear really began to kick in for our top 4 on the final lap. And Mcnee as well, it wasn't as though he wasn't experienced that tyre wear, but he just seemed to find a way to find the grip that others could not.
Yeah, and we're just going to watch his final lap here before we have some interviews with our drivers here on Discord. But into the 1st corner, that's one picked off already. That's behind was not too sure. But he makes his way past another one here to the outside of Lee Holmes. He goes, I think it was Nick Clibbins he passed at the
yes, it was.
turn 1 there. So to the outside of excuse me, Lee Holmes there, and he had to this was the crucial move. This is the one that if it didn't work, he wouldn't have been able to catch up with the top 2.
To be fair to Lee Holmes, he did everything he could to defend it, but now as they come up into the cut-in, I believe, as we were talking about, there was an incident between the 2 drivers ahead, and we're going to see some smoke kick up very shortly. And yes, it was contact. You can see Adam Delmont really hit the back of Adam Morgan, and the 2 of them got away with it there. Now, that, to be fair, Delmont immediately backed out, but then it was side by side all the way through turns 4, 5, 6 and 7. We're going through essentially a blind rising chicane, and as they make their way now through into the triple left of turns 8 through to 10, watch this from Mcnee. He literally has to back out here on the run through 9, but everybody gives one other space, and then into turn 10. Well, Mcnee just fully committed it here. He went on in, he got it done, and well, Delmont had to be very obliging there. He could have turned in thinking Mcnee would have backed out, but instead he backed out for Mcnee, and as they made their way down Skyline and through the Dipper, well, Mcnee just literally getting it done. And look at Delmont in the end. I think it was the case. The tyres on Delmont's car, particularly the rear tyres, were just gone. He just did not have the grip. And as he comes down into Forest Elbow, Mcnee just able to smoothly come through. Delmont in the end, I think, just running on the ragged edge of those rims as they made their way on to the Conrad Straight. But what a brave set of overtakes from McNeely, and will brave from all 4 drivers there. Give credit to them all, Alex, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, absolutely. They fought as hard as they could, but McNeely was just too good to stop. It's nothing to do with the other drivers doing anything wrong, and they did everything right. They put their cars where they should have. Perhaps the only debatable one was they allowed McNeely to get to the inside at the top of the hill, but when he's charging through like that, you can't just stop drivers like that, particularly on a part of the track. We were kind of talking about the way you can overtake at the top of the hill there just before race 3 here, and you have got to put your car in the right place for a move at the top of the hill, which McNeely did. Credit to him as he celebrates coming across the line. We'll round off that replay there with the results of this 3rd race, read to you by Paul Walsh himself.
So after the 3rd race of racing here at Bathurst, ladies and gentlemen, it was the case Liam McNeely taking the win in the end by 1 second over Adam Delmont. The iRacing blue driver there, finishing just ahead of Lee Holmes, completing our podium. Adam Morgan, just unfortunate to miss out on the podium there in race number 3, and Pete Newman making it another top 5 finish. Mikey Doble and Nick Clibbins P6, P7, and then James Clark P8 overall, our Pro-Am winner for race number 3 in the Swift Cooper with Racing machine, and then Maurice Henry P9, Ben Bennyworth P10, and outside the top 10 but by no means less valuable, Jamie Dory P11, ahead of Lee Horne, who came home P2 in the Pro-Am class, P12 overall. John Burnham completing our Pro-Am podium, P13 overall. Ollie Peters having a very difficult day of racing in round number 3, being involved in a number of incidents, with Glenn Humberstone completing our top 15, the Pro-Am driver. Nigel Stock, George Watson, Callum Jenkins P18, and in Tom Delaney, the only, if I remember correctly, the only AM driver to make it home on the lead lap, and our winner in the AM class in the 555 car in race at number 3, and Jay Elliott completing our top 20. Then it was Mark Oliver, the last driver to finish on the lead lap. Paul Scott, the AM driver, going home P2 in the AM class, a lap down. Sam Smith P23, Craig Cockfield P24, Wayne Douglas P25, Ben Williams P26, David Whitehouse P27, Lewis Kemp P28, and Deegan Fairclough P29. A lot of drivers have been involved in incidents early on, particularly our last 4 drivers there unable to make it to the finish classification.
Yeah, and there we go. A fantastic night's racing. So qualifying, pole position went to Liam McNeely. Race 1, the race win went to Liam McNeely. Almost led it from start to finish. A fight from 12th to 1st for Liam McNeely to take the win in race 2, and a win in race 3 from 27th on the grid to the top spot from McNeely. A fantastic race, fantastic bit of sim racing we've seen there. Some of the finest racing I've seen in a very, very long time indeed, and I'm going to remember that for a long time. And yeah, what a great night's racing we've seen. And it doesn't end just yet. We have ended the first half of the season, ladies and gentlemen, but we'll be back in 2 weeks from today for the 7th round of the championship. It will be at the Monza Grand Prix circuit. And then after that, it'll be Snetterton 300. And the week after that, Zandvoort. And the final rounds of the championship at Interlagos, Long Beach, and the Nürburgring VLN. And we've got people filtering in for interviews here. We're not going to interview them all, definitely not. But we'll try and get through as many as possible. They've all just realised they can have an interview, and they've just come waiting in the interview room. So, Paul, who are we going to interview first out of these drivers? We haven't got our race winner, I don't think, of Liam McNeely, but we have got the next best thing of Lee Horne, who's had a very, very good night. 2 firsts and a second tonight in the category for him.
Well, I think you've pretty much said the name of the driver I'd love to hear from first, and that is Lee Horne, to hear about his experience in the Pro-Am class and running, well, as he joins us in the interview room. Lee, a great day at the office for you at Bathurst, putting in an astounding set of results. How does it feel to have picked up the most consistent set of finishes in the Pro-Am class today?
That was just... that was I can't stop giggling. It was so much fun. It was mental. Yeah, I mean, for the results, I'm not really thinking about those. Just the entertainment value of the racing that we just had in that last race 3 even was just phenomenal. The battling with Tom Delaney there. Unfortunately, he made the mistake that collected the three of us. But we were just all over each other. And I don't know if you caught it, going down the back straight, where I moved across, went to go 3 wide and thought, nah, this isn't a good idea. So Tom decides behind the 3 of us just to go left and go round all 3 of us. That was just an amazing move. I couldn't believe it. Well done, Tom Delaney, for that. But yeah, unfortunately, he then threw it away later on. But yeah, that was a really good night's racing. Probably a little bit better than I thought it was going to go. I mean, I do like Bathurst, but I wasn't sure how I'd fare. So to get that good result in race 2 and a really good result, really considering for race 1, then yeah, race 3 was a bit of fun, damage limitation from the back, and yeah, I loved it. Really, really good.
Well, fantastic to see and to hear it in your voice as well. I thought a number of drivers, including yourself, might be quite scared for words, given just how intense and particularly the instance on the final lap. But you seem completely unfazed by it. Just take us through running the Mazda MX-5s around Bathurst at such speed and having to go for these daring overtakes, particularly over the mountain. What's it like running in the MX-5 around here? Because normally you see GT3 style machines run around here, alternatively the Australian V8, but we're in a much smaller machine. It does look as though you can absolutely chuck the little Mazda around here to your heart's content.
Well, yeah, the key thing is to be respectful to the person you're trying to get past and not just throw it up and expect to get out of the way. I think if you're respectful to them as they are to you, I think in practice or in qualifying, but in practice, nearly did a whole lap side by side with somebody. So when it came to the race, pretty much confident with most of the people that I came up against that they're going to be, that they'll give me the respect that I give them, and so in which case, yeah, you're not afraid to put it alongside and hang it on your side of the track, so to speak, so they've got their side, and see how you fare. And it went really well tonight. I mean, the Mazdas, they're nicely a little bit loose to the rear with the way the setup is for everybody, so you can sort of dance the car in and out. So it's like, once you're used to the car, you can really sort of do some on the edge stuff with it, because it's not a GT3 speeds, of course, it's a Mazda MX-5 speed. So well, once you've got your head around it all and you've honed your skills a little bit, you can really enjoy racing them like that. And yeah, that was a whole ton of fun.
Oh, indeed. And with regards to the race, of course, how they factor into your standings going into tonight, of course, right towards the front of the Pro-Am Championship and carrying a lot more momentum now going into the second half of the season. Of course, we've got a week's break next week, and then we've got Monza on what is the 31st of January. How do you feel now after what has been the first half of the season? Just take us through what's your sort of summary of how your season's gone so far?
Well, coming into it, I hadn't been really back in the Mazdas since I first joined iRacing, which was probably a couple of years ago now. And you do it obviously in the Rookie Cup at the start, where you're learning your craft, learning iRacing, the sim itself. So I was sort of open-minded, is that I knew I'd be, I wouldn't be up at the sharp end, whatever class I was going to be in, and certainly not at the sharp end in general, because I knew the class of drivers that we were going to have, real world and sim. So it was a case of I just wanted to develop my consistency and control of the car from the start, and it's gone really well. To be leading the Pro-Ams at this point now is very pleasing. Didn't expect it, but you're always aiming for the top, so very pleased with that. But yeah, with the break coming up now, it's actually not really much of a break, because a lot of us are doing the Daytona 24-hour this coming weekend. We drive in the Ferrari GT3 Evo. So I've got to get my head into that for the next few days, a bit of practice. But I'll be very, very much looking forward to coming back to the Mazdas the week after, because they're just so entertaining to drive. They really are. If nobody's driven these cars before, these sequential boxes and the right sort of setup, they're just so entertaining for a driver to drive a car. It's fantastic.
Oh, indeed, it's absolutely brilliant to hear that shine for you in terms of your sentiment with regards to the cars and the series. And just before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to, whether it be a sponsor, member of family or friends?
Well, as usual, we always thank our sponsors for looking after us and supporting us, themselves obviously for the broadcast. Jamie helped me out a little bit there. As you probably saw in race 1, we were hoping to pull away a little bit more, but it didn't quite come off. Sorry, race 2. But we were trying to help each other out a little bit there as best we can, so it's always a thanks to Jay, to be honest, as we are teammates but in different classes.
Oh, well, that's absolutely brilliant to hear, and well, thank you for joining us in the interview room, Lee, and we look forward to seeing how you get on in what is the Daytona 24 hours this weekend. But until next time, and of course when we head to Monza on the 31st of January, thank you once again and congratulations today on a fantastic set of results.
Thanks very much, guys. Cheers.
Yeah, excellent night indeed for Lee. Just to remind you of his achievements tonight: race 1 winning category, race 2 winning category, and 2nd place in race 3. I bet he's rather gutted he didn't get the full Monty. But he'll take them Hall of Points indeed, and it certainly solidifies his stance at the top of the championship in Pro-Am, which coming into tonight was a fairly stellar lead of 13 points, Paul.
Indeed, and now with that momentum behind him, I think one of the things he's got to be aware of is that when we come back for Monza at the end of the month, he really is going to be the man with a crosshair on his back. And what I mean by that is everybody else in the Pro-Am class, and particularly Monza being a circuit where it's a slipstream-based circuit, it is a case you want to be in the right place at the right time, like at Daytona or even the straights here at Bathurst. I think Leon's going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and it's how he manages that pressure which is going to be all the more important in terms of his championship campaign. Because if he can start off as he intends to finish in round number 7 in terms of being dominant, I think it's the case he's going to be unstoppable for the rest of the season. But of course, plenty of rounds to go. Nothing is certain until the final checkered flag falls.
Yep, something about a lady singing, but the rest of the season to go for Lee. Let's see how he gets on. But we're going to move on to our next interview of the night, and we are going to pull in the man of the hour, driver of the day, unconditionally, 3 race wins. What can we say about that, Liam? What a fantastic night for yourself. Just put it into words for us.
Yeah, you know, it was a good night. You know, pole in qualifying, then 3 race wins. I think I can be very happy of how the night's gone, and yeah, just looking forward to the next one, really.
You're quite a late entrant into the season, but you know, at this point in the season, there's a lot of people fighting for championships, that sort of thing. Certainly something must be going through your head right now. They must be thinking, well, I wish I kind of got involved in this from the start, because your chances would be on, that's for certain.
Yeah, you know, I sort of got mentioned by my friend Deegan. He said, "Oh, come do this race tonight," and yeah, I was in the league from the Legends. Yeah, so I gave it a go, and yeah, here we are. And yeah, no, it was a really good night.
Oh, excellent stuff. Which of the races was your favourite? Race 1, 2 or 3?
Race 3 was definitely my highlight. I think with the longer time, you know, I think I was a bit more relaxed going into it. I think knowing I had more time to select the moves, even though I did have a few incidents. Yeah, no, race 3 was definitely the highlight for me.
Yeah, there was one incident we did catch. I think it involved you and Nick Clibbins at one point in the race. We shan't get too bogged down with that. But there was a moment in the race where it was actually that incident with Nick where you actually dropped off a little bit from the battling pack at the front. Did you think at that point that it might have gotten away from you, or did you still have a positive mentality about you to get to that top group?
Well, I definitely didn't want to be as far back when I had a little contact with, I think it was Nick, but I knew if they kept on battling, I would have got there, and I got there on the last lap, so I had to make everything count. And yeah, it was just lucky that a few things managed to fall into place, and I managed to get the lead over the hill and just do the downhill section right and pull away.
Oh, excellent stuff. So will we hope to see you for the remaining rounds of the season? We got Monza in 2 weeks. How do you fancy your chances for that if you are going to come along for the journey?
Yeah, I think I'll definitely give it a good go, because from seeing my pace from tonight, I think I have a good chance of some good results. So yeah, I'll definitely give it a good go for Monza.
Absolutely great stuff. Before you shoot off, Liam, anyone you want to give a shout out to? Any friends, family, fans, sponsors, etc.?
Yeah, I'd like to give a thank you to Team Fordzilla. I've just joined them, so it was good. It was a good way to kick off my campaign with Fordzilla.
It's a very nice livery as well, I've got to say. It did load up for me in the end. Didn't have it at the beginning. But yeah, very nice livery indeed for the new team, and a nice bit of silverware to bring back to the warehouse. But Liam, thank you very much for the entertaining races tonight. We'll see you next time at Monza in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you. Goodbye.
There we go. What a night indeed. I know we keep saying it, but tremendous indeed, wasn't it, Paul?
Oh, indeed. And hearing from Liam there, he just sounded absolutely full of beans with regards to enjoying the racing, and particularly, as he's saying, with regards to race number 3. And, well, the fact that he's planning to come back for the second half of the season, starting with Monza, I cannot wait to see how he gets on and really continues to shake up the pro class. Because based on tonight, well, it was fair racing through and through. There was that one moment, of course, but everybody has their moments. But it is the case. I think Mcnee really is a force to be reckoned with. And as you say, say, Alex, well, if he'd been here sooner, could we have really seen the tables turned upside down? Well, you could still turn them upside down, to be fair. It's not over yet.
Yep, absolutely. And it could be a little bit of a thorn in the side of the drivers who are actually battling in the pro category at the top, the likes of Mikey Doble, Lee Holmes and Adam Delmont. But we'll see what happens in the races to come. Monza next time out, a very drafty circuit yet again. But yeah, and crucial part of the season we're ascending into now, the second half of the season. A lot of drivers have really established where they are in the championship, and some drivers have got to really knuckle down and really get those good results in if they want those positions.
Oh, indeed. I think that's one of the things now, in terms of the way the momentum turns in this championship. A lot of drivers will go away from tonight feeling perhaps a little bit unsatisfied. There were a number of instances and some big names really falling by the wayside time and time again. And for example, David Whitehouse, we know he's really been the on-form AM driver. And whilst it's quite a limited class in the AMs, today nothing seemed to go right for Whitehouse. And now he's got to come back at Monza and really prove to himself, you know what, that was just a blip. It's the same for, say, Ollie Peters, who started off really well, but for the Crest Autosport driver, everything just did not seem to work out. And another driver as well, who I'm not sure whether he's just perhaps playing this safe, but looking at what was Mikey Doble, just simply trying to keep it as clear as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. It's relatively quiet night for Mikey Doble. I'm still crying about the Ollie Peters bit, by the way. Still crying about that. But he'll fight back next week. Come on, Ollie. Yeah, Mikey Doble, quiet night for him, relatively. But we see it time and time again from Mikey. He's just so... He's so alike Andy Prio, where he doesn't need to win races. And give him credit, this season he's won quite a few races, but he doesn't need to win races to win championships, and that is the golden rule of racing, and he's proven that time and time again. Today, you know, in contrast to Liam McNeely, it wasn't such a glamorous night, but in contrast to the other drivers, he still did very, very well indeed. Pete Newman was probably the second highest performer in the pro category, but Mikey Doble's not battling him for the championship right now, and he knows that. He knows the driver he's got to keep an eye on right now is Delmont and Holmes. So Doble's doing everything he needs to at the moment, and on a track like this, he's probably done the right thing of keeping his nose out of trouble.
Oh, definitely. I think sometimes you've got to go to these circuits and just think, you know what? Take the points that are available to you. You're not going to be on the podium today. You're not going to win the race, but sometimes you just got to suck it up, get those points, get them in the bank, and then move on to the circuit where you can go for the win again. And I think that is why Mikey Doble is our championship leader right now, because when he knows he can't win, he'll find a way just to get solid points out of the races, and that's why he's always such an ever-present threat. He's always there when people drop it, and when they're not dropping it, if he feels like it, he just goes all in and gets the wins.
Absolutely, that's a perfect description of it. But I think we've come to our time here on Crest Autosport TV on Twitch and YouTube, and NXTGEN Racing on Facebook. This is the schedule for the season. This is the end of the first half of the season. We got Monza next in 2 weeks from today, and then the remainder of the season will follow. We have got just under 2 months to go in this season, and it is getting ever more exciting as we go on and on and on. But this has been round 6 of the championship from the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup. Please do give us a subscribe, follow, share, or like all of that on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook from wherever you are watching. It does help out the channels, and of course it helps us to provide brilliant content and great racing for you spectators out there. I've been Alex Everett of Crest Autosport, and alongside me, Paul Walsh of TX141. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time for Monza for the second half of the season. Mikey Doble leads the championship heading into the second half, but we might have a new star on the horizon in Liam McNeely. But we'll find out what happens in the weeks to come. We'll see you next time at Monza. Good night.